We're gonna watch this React-ception. This is gonna be great. I'm gonna react to Oh, let's do this.
Honestly, I think it does. I absolutely think it does. I know Quazii has been a big fan of like Final Fantasy. Like this guy is really into Final Fantasy too. Like I've watched a lot of his videos.
By the way, just a proud personal moment where Asmongold says he has watched many of your Final Fantasy videos. That's a bucket list tick right there. Like one of the biggest content creators watches your content, so that's great. I'm gonna tell my mom about it. So
It's a very
Tell your mom about it.
He brings up a very good point. Personal looting is garbage. Asmongold simping for another content creator. Hate to see it. Wait, what?
oh snap!
It's actually the guy's dumb. He has no idea what he's talking about.
Oh snap!
Why is it valid when he said
Oh,
this?
shit.
But you ridicule us in chat. But let me explain why it's different. Okay. Number one, people are listening to him. Nobody's listening to you.
Oh, fucking burn,
Some
dude.
people are like, yeah, this is a chat. He makes good points. Finally, YouTuber that makes sense. And then it goes the other way. This guy is annoying AF. This guy spews dog shit. So, chat, if you ever want to aspire to be a content creator, you must have the ability to be thick-skinned.
Hold on. Gotta take notes. Hold on. Me. Pull out notepad.
enough to not take things personally. By the way, this is actually good life advice. Like, don't ever take things personally. Like, now when I recorded and published
that's
the video,
true.
the interviews went out. And that's why in the comment section for my video, you see a disparity in comments. The first 12 hours of comment is basically like, yeah, you have a point, and of course there's some WoW NDs like Honey Badger, they will come in like, haha, Final Fantasy 14 suck! World of Warcraft best game! Like, there's people like that. But after the 12-hour mark, when the interviewers, all the interviews started coming out, then you started seeing more comments like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Clearly, Eon Hazikosta said in the interview with Hazel that this is XYZ.
I follow him, right?
Yada.
Oh no, this is a different channel.
But why wasn't it
subscribe.
in the initial announcement? I don't get it. What's the point of putting it in an interview? I don't get it. Asmongold reacted to my take on the Dragonflight expansion. I'm told that chat went berserk on him. Like, chat was literally molding. And I'm curious to see why chat was molding. Oh, wait, I need to move.
Got?
Okay.
Quazii epic rant on WoW Dragonflight reveal. Underwhelming.
Yes. Alright, many of you wanted my thoughts on the new Dragonflight expansion for World of Warcraft, so here it is. Before we start,
There's the link in the chat. If you're watching this with me, go subscribe to the Quazii After Dark channel. Go subscribe to his main channel, and go give this video a thumbs up too. Quazii's a really good content creator. I remember I followed him toward the beginning of Shadowlands when he was doing guides for tanking. Like he played a lot of tank characters and stuff, and he had weak auras all set up. Like he had a whole weak aura suite for like UI stuff, and like he was a really helpful content creator for World of Warcraft, and I loved his stuff then. But then when everything kind of came up and happened with the Blizzard situation and everything, and then of course the content issues and everything that everybody was having trouble with, the Torghast and everything. Quazii was one of the first people to be like, you know what? I've played this game for so long and I've put so many hours into it, and I'm just done with it. I don't love this game anymore. And he went over to Final Fantasy, and he made great videos for Final Fantasy as well too now. So he's an entertaining guy, and I love Quazii. So if you're watching this here at any point, go give him a follow on Twitch. Go give him a follow on Twitter. Don't follow him in real life, but go subscribe to his YouTube channels too. So
know that bulk of my followers is actually from World of Warcraft. If there's anyone who wants to be proven wrong by Activision Blizzard, that they know what they're doing, it's me. It's still true today. Let me remind you, if I was a sellout and I wanted to continue growing my fandom and my fan base and my viewership, I should be making WoW videos, because technically, I think 60% of my audience came from WoW. So if I really wanted to maximize viewership. I should be making WoW videos and actually being a suck up to WoW. It's so unbearable. But sad to say, today I was utterly underwhelmed. I am not
Quazii, you don't have to suck up to WoW to be able to get my support, man. I love your videos still, either way. I think you're wrong on some things now because things have changed in WoW a little bit. Particularly your Torghast takes, because it's not as necessary to do it anymore. But it is grounded in reality, and it is your opinion. I respect your opinion. Good on Quazii. I love you, man.
Because disappointment is an emotion you will experience when you are still harboring hope for something. But my hope for the game has died long ago. When you are praying for every single... Why did he laugh? My guess is he went through the same emotional cycle. Asmongold used to do World of Warcraft videos too. He understands the pain of having your content being centered around a game that used to be so great. People loved the game, your content was doing great, and then to see it so badly mismanaged, and because your identity is tied to a game like that, you potentially put your entire viewership, your entire channel into jeopardy.
Hell yes.
Just because
yes, it does.
Developer sitting somewhere thinks they know better than the players what the players want. So I think he laughed because of that patch for Battle for Azeroth or
Hey,
Shadowlands.
but there's one thing I have to correct there. He does still do World of Warcraft videos. He still does. Not that he used to, but now he's expanded out everything. Most of his channels now are basically reaction videos. But he does still do World of Warcraft stuff, so I just don't think he's done any guides lately. It'd be nice to see some more guides from him, but I don't think he plays seriously enough to... Sorry, hiccups. I don't think he plays seriously enough anymore to actually be able to do anything like that, so I don't know. We'll have to see.
To actually get better, only to be disappointed by the developers who continue to think that they know better for what the consumers want instead of what we've been telling. Chat, look at what his chat is typing. His chat is typing emotional damage. I guess that's because I'm Asian, I guess. But I thought it was funny. Damn.
Yeah.
Your hope fades away, your investment in the game fades away, and I have zero expectations going to the announcement. As expected, I wasn't proven wrong. Now let's talk about the big...
Okay, so I think that's true. I think that's a healthy mindset to have, though. I do. Don't get emotionally connected to it and just try to enjoy the game for what it is. If it's good, play it. If it's not, don't. I think that's fair.
Biggest reason why Shadowlands, as well as Battle for Azeroth... Okay, I thought this was funny, so I wanted to rewind. Okay, you see his chat, I thought it was just funny. Like, he paused the video here, and then his chat started spamming that frog emote that does the okay thing. That was pretty funny. You see they're spamming this frog emote okay thing. That was pretty funny. I think
that's fair.
Like, biggest reason why Shadowlands, as well as Battle for Azeroth, wasn't great expansions. It came down to people complaining about not enjoying the activities and systems being
Someone
placed
said,
in the
oh my
game.
god, someone said I'm Uncle Roger.
There was a comment that literally said Uncle Roger. Or Torghast, Covenant systems, soulbinds, conduit energies, essences, corruption, Azerite armor, farming reputation in Nasjadam.
Oh my god, he's like probably just listing them off over and over and over. I think, yeah, this is definitely true. I mean, all of these systems did have problems on release. Some of them were improved. I think Torghast is much better now than it was on release. I thought essences were improved, but you have other systems like Azerite and like corruptions that were not improved. They were bad the whole time. There was never a point where they were good. There was a point where they were bad and then worse. Yes, true. But they were always at least bad.
Now, because Josh Strive Hayes once said in the famous Terra incident video, where he reacted to a Asmongold reaction of his video, and he was doing a React-ception, Josh Strive Hayes said, the principle for reacting to content, the ethics of reacting to content, is actually you need to add value to the conversation. So, today, I'm going to add value to this conversation because Asmongold actually said that he thinks systems are bad. Now, if you guys haven't seen this video, I would quickly interject here and show you this video because I am adding value to this.
Oh no, we're getting another video.
Me reacting to Asmongold reacting to my video by showing you this video. Because this video absolutely sums up what World of Warcraft systems is about. Asmongold basically explains why external systems suck.
Conduit energy, you're out of conduit energy, you gotta wait for tomorrow.
That's really good. Oh my god.
Then you have to get to layer 8, but you don't have layer 8, so you have to buy a WoW token so you can buy a carry to get to layer 8, and then finally you get to layer 8, and you have to buy another WoW token to buy the white item on the
Oh, wow.
Dude,
enchant the white item on the auction house.
How good is that?
Gear, and then you get the fucking enchant for the legendary.
That is pretty good. Holy cow.
It was the same piece that you got from the raid, so now you need to get a legendary, so you buy another WoW token
Bro.
for 1,000 gold for $20 again.
oh my god. Somebody
I wonder if the person that made that actually sped up or slowed down any parts of what he was saying to make it fit as if it was a rap. Because that it fits that Slim Shady beat way too well.
needs to make a video of this or send me the file.
You know what's the crazy part? Everything he said in that rap is actually factually true. It was so good, dude. So yeah, that's me adding value to the conversation. So Asmongold said he agrees.
Good job, Quazii.
You know, external systems suck. He doesn't have to watch my video to know that. He summed it up well in his rap video. In order to get your necklace essences, the list goes on and on. Not to mention complaints about 4-piece tier set being totally RNG, a big complaint amongst competitive guilds. Not to mention people saying that the Great Vault system isn't great and it needs a revamp.
I actually like the Great Vault system, but I think he has a really good point with the tier set gear. I think the creation catalyst should have been in.
All right. This is when the chat starts going bananas. When Asmongold says he agrees on certain things, then the gloves come off, right? Like chat's like,
this guy is cringe. This guy is cringe. Great Vault was a good idea. True, but implemented kind of strangely. It's been making some progress though. That's an upside. They've decreased some of the things that you need to do to get stuff from it, but it needs a little bit better protection, bad luck protection, because holy shit, when you get an item that you already have that you got earlier in the week, that's so fucking annoying. And people say, wait to open your vault until you've got stuff for the week so you know what to take out of it. And then, you get 3 fucking belts. 3 fucking belts that you can't even use. Or trinkets you can't even use because they're just garbage compared to what you already have. It's happened to me so many times. It's happened to a lot of people I know. And, of course, those little tiny orbs that you can buy so you can use for other things. I think you get Cosmic Flux from it. A few other things. Maybe, I think a sack of gold or something. I haven't even bought the sack of gold because I don't even know how much gold comes in it. I don't even know if it's worth it.
I like the Great Vault.
I do.
Great
I think
Vault
it
is
should have
great.
been in on release. It's like if you are worried that people are going to quit your game after they get their tier set, maybe the problem isn't with them getting their tier set.
Yeah, here's the mind-blowing thing. Eon Hazi Costas. If you ever watch this video, if you make your game fun, people will never quit your game. Period. If your game is fun, if they have geared out their character, they're gonna go create alts. Because that's what people do. If the game is fun, you don't need to artificially gate.
I have way too many alts.
It's as simple as that. It's not science. It's not rocket science. Honestly, it isn't. Let me elaborate here why I think the Great Vault system sucks, because I didn't get to go into it in my video. Asmon agreed on the 4-piece tier set, which, self-explanatory, very RNG, right? Imagine you are in a raid and your buddies all got their 4-piece tier set because they got so lucky, the boss simply dropped the 4-piece tier set for them, and you are there with only 1-piece tier set and 2-piece tier set. Guess what? You're not going to get invited into the raids during Mythic, progression. You're not going to get invited into Mythic Plus groups. Why? Because in Mythic Plus groups, they actually check whether you have your 4-piece tier set. They actually check your armory. Do you have a 4-piece tier set? Well, if not, please get the hell out because clearly you don't do enough damage. And it's just...
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I have had my 4-piece since probably, I want to say, the second week of normal progression with my guild. Mostly naturally dropped for me. I didn't get traded anything or anything like that. It was legitimate drops for me. And I was just one of the lucky few. But I still, because I wasn't one of the meta classes, I didn't get invited to groups. Now, that's also combined with the fact that my IO score has been kind of low for a while. Like, only recently it's gone up to 1970 something. So I'm close to 2000 right now. I'm looking forward to getting those last few keys that I need to get that. But yeah, like 4-piece didn't really help too much in any aspect whatsoever.
It's the same thing as the race to Wolfers. There were raiders, really good raiders, who got very unlucky without getting their 4-piece tier set by the time progression rolled around.
And I also want to throw in one other thing. When it comes to raiding and stuff, you may not get into mythic progression stuff, but if you're just happy with getting into raids and having fun, you got to look for a guild who is just wanting to do things, make new friends, and just have fun. They may end up being a casual group. You may only raid 2 nights a week. You guys may progress slower than other guilds, but if you find the right group of people, you can get in, even if you have really shitty luck with the drops. And like in case with my guild and everything, I think we're progressing pretty well for only raiding like 2.5 hours a night for 2 nights a week. I think we're doing pretty good because, I mean, the majority of what we're doing is pretty much re-clearing from the week before. And we pretty much only have like 2.5 hours to make attempts on a boss that we're new to. So I think we're doing pretty good. We just killed Anduin this last Saturday night. So we're pretty stoked. This week we're not going to be raiding, taking a break from raiding, but that's going to be probably a good chance for us to get some Mythic Plus done. So maybe get some pumping going on in Ragolon, because oh man, Ragolon, we were pumping damage this last week, man. We got him down to like 70-something% before mechanics became an issue, which that's going to be fixed by more people seeing those mechanics and realizing that it's not normal anymore, and so you can't just fuck up those mechanics anymore and survive. So yeah, it's going to be great. But anyway, yeah, that's my thing. Is like if you are worried, like the majority of the player base that are worried about things like that really don't need to be, because they just need to find people that are like-minded and willing to take you in, and not worry so much about your gear. You know, obviously they're going to want to worry about your gear a little bit. They want to see that you at least put in the effort to, you know, get yourself geared up a little bit. But, you know, if you don't have a 4-piece tier set or anything like that, there's a lot of guilds out there that don't really care about that so much, just as long as you are putting in an attempt, and that's really all you need. So I think that discussion that Quazii is having right now is mostly focused on a small percentage of players, and it's really not that big of a deal, like a lot of people make it out to be.
And they didn't get to raid. It happened to Limit, it happened to Echo. There were people on the bench, good raiders, but they were screwed by RNG. For
excellent raiders.
The Great Vault, why does it suck for casuals like us? In Honey Badger's
I think Genji was one of those players that couldn't get in.
For casuals like us who only play the game for 6 hours a day.
I could be wrong.
Casual because you clearly don't play this game for 30 hours like Honey Badger does. So the reason why it
Honey
sucks
Badger
is because
going back to Honey Badger.
Vault is able to reward you any gear in the game, any gear at all. It's a total RNG fest. The loot table is extremely long. It can drop anything from dungeons, from raids, etc, etc. There's some classifications, yes. Some brackets that will drop from raid, some that will drop from Mythic Plus dungeons. A long story short, the loot table is very long, and there's no way to target a specific item, a specific slot. In short, it's kind of a gacha box. It's kind of a loot box that you go and open every week. World of Warcraft community, before I quit, has very quickly dubbed it the weekly chest of disappointment, or the weekly vault of disappointment. Because every time you go into that vault, you know you're probably going to get a repeat item, or an item that you clearly is a downgrade for you. The chance of you eventually getting a BIS or a 4-piece tier set very, very rare. And it's so frustrating
Yeah.
that you can work as hard as your friends, you can work as hard as your guildmates, work as hard as people in your static, or rather your roster, and they get geared way faster than you because they got lucky. So I said that I didn't like the Great Vault, and maybe I should have elaborated by saying that I think the Great Vault idea works, but there needs to be a way to target certain slots. For example, we need to be able to say, I want to ban this particular slot, or I want to ban this particular item. So I can start homing in on my chances. That's basically how I think about it.
Maybe it's a more deeply rooted issue with the game. Maybe it's the problem with the game as a whole. It's like if
I don't think you need to do a ban system to hone in your chances more. I think they just need to do better bad luck detections. Be like, hey, you've already got this one item. We're not going to give you that item anymore. I think probably the reason why you have 9 different slots to be able to work toward is so that way you have all those different options that you can choose from. And obviously you're going to get like boots that drop in the vault that you can't use because you've got better boots or you've got other boots or something like that. But at the same time, if it's same item level but it's got better stats, you want those boots to be able to drop and stuff. So I think what he's saying, it makes sense to an extent, right? Like you want to be able to prevent the bad luck from happening of getting a duplicate drop, but at the same time, that could be internal. That doesn't have to be something that you manually have to set or anything like that. So I think his logic is sound. I think he's just probably overthinking the system a little bit more. Like, obviously, I think if a weapon drops in there, you're going to want to be able to get 2 of the same weapon or something like that, unless it's like a 2-hander, right? But if it's like a 1-hander weapon, maybe give you a chance to get a second one until you have 2 of them total. I mean, there can be all number of things. Or maybe you want another one for an off-spec that you want to have enchanted differently. So, I agree with him, but I think it could be done differently than what he's describing it as.
If you think this is an issue, oh my god, we can't let people get their tier set too early or they're going to quit.
Okay, his chat
It's
is molding
just
now.
so dumb. And the Great Vault system, I've said before, I actually think the Great Vault system is good. Are there a few changes I'd like to see made? Yes.
Again, I don't think the Great Vault system is entirely garbage. I just think that they need refinements. We need to be able to ban. We need to be able to ban certain slots, target certain things that I want from the Great Vault. At least increase my chances. Or at least let me reroll. Or something like that.
Your chances are increased by the fact that you have 9 different slots.
Massive improvement over what we had in Legion and BFA.
I was expecting Blizzard to basically make a very firm statement that, hey folks, we listen. We are just interrupting because someone in chat is asking about what's the Great Vault system. Okay, so let me repeat again, okay? So the Great Vault system in World of Warcraft requires you to do certain bare minimum amount of content in order to get loot from this Great Vault. And this Great Vault basically rewards you with item levels that are relatively high based on the most difficult content that you did. A very simple example is Mythic Plus. Back when I was playing, and I think it's probably still the same, you needed to do a bare minimum of a plus 15 difficulty key in order to get the highest item level reward drop from the Weekly Vault. And the Weekly Vault basically has,
I think 15 is
9 slots
correct.
in it. In order to get the ability to choose 1 out of 9 loots, you need to do content in the game. So to fill up the role with Mythic Plus, I think you need to do 1 Mythic Plus dungeon for the first drop, and then 4 Mythic Plus dungeons for the second drop, and I think it was 9 or 7 Mythic Plus dungeons for the third drop. So you basically needed to do raids, Mythic Plus, PvP to fill up all 9 slots. Now, what you get from the 9 is entirely RNG. The loot table is wide open. You can pick whatever you want, but chances are, as you start progressing and your character gets geared up, eventually the Weekly Vault doesn't give you a reward anymore. It just is a disappointment because the chance of you getting an upgrade from the Weekly Vault is so low. Imagine you have 3-piece tier set and you're trying to roll for the 4th piece. The chance of that rolling is like 1 out of, I don't know, 100. It's low.
I mean, that's
So that kind of
it's an
sucks, and that's why I
off
meant
chance that you're
why I
actually
don't
going to
like
get
the
that.
Great because I feel like you need a way to target farm it. You can't just gacha it. It just feels bad.
But back on that same topic though, now that they've got the cipher, the creation catalyst system, you can actually let that, you know, highest level piece for a certain slot that you don't have a tier piece for become available in the vault. You can collect it and then create the tier piece without any problem. So that kind of adds to the, you know, whole bad luck protection, I guess, when it comes to trying to get your tier. So it's a system that's now in place, but it wasn't before. And I don't know if he's familiar with the things that have been changed or anything like that, because Quazii did come from, you know, way earlier in you know, WoW's lifetime and everything like that, before they introduced the, you know, creation catalyst and all that. So I can understand if you may not know that exists right now, but, you know, that basically means any trash, like chest item, for example, that you get in the vault, if you don't have your tier chest, or if that item is higher item level than what you have right now, you can actually create a higher level, you know, tier piece with that chest piece, for example, and there you go, you got another tier piece. It's not a perfect system, and it's kind of expensive, and the fact that they have charges on the catalyst creation system, that's another thing entirely, and I wish they didn't have charges on it, because literally the amount of cosmic flux that you get within a week, if you're just if you're part of the demographic that WoW created the creation catalyst for, you're probably not going to have enough cosmic flux to actually create a whole tier set. You know, so it's kind of annoying, and they need to fix that, I think. But I think for every week that you don't create something, you get a charge for, you know, how many times you can create something. So like if you unlock the creation catalyst on week 1, didn't have the cosmic flux for something, and you just kind of didn't mess with it for a few weeks, if you've got, you know, if you're on week 3 or something like that, and you have like, you haven't used it at all, I think you could create 3 pieces. I don't know, I don't know the details on that, but that's what I've been told. But yeah, you can get like 3 tier pieces that way if you get lucky enough to get the drops of other types. As long as it's Mythic Plus or Raid loot, basically, you get that. You can even use the LFR gear to do that, so it's a bonus. But what I think is cool is if you use a Mythic Plus piece, like I don't know, like let's say you get a Mythic Plus helm or something like that, and you go to the Creation Catalyst and you create your tier piece with it, it retains that Mythic Plus upgradability, so you can actually go from, you know, the lowest Mythic Plus piece, I think, all the way up to max level tier piece just by upgrading it as soon as you have the Valor for it. So that's a pretty cool system when you think of it like that.
And naturally, they want to make it a gacha because they want you to take longer to gear your character, so you will stay longer in the game. You will pay for a subscription over a period of time, a longer period of time, and that benefits them financially because they want you to stay subscribed. Now, my counter argument, which
that's true,
Honey Badger would strongly disagree because I'm
Honey Badger,
is that if World of Warcraft made their game fun, if the game is fundamentally fun, even when people get BIS, they would still play the game. Mm-hmm. Heck, when I'm BIS, I'll play the shit out of the game because finally I am BIS, best in slot in every single slot. I can start dumpstering all the content and I can do harder and harder content. Something to think about. sorry about what
Yeah,
we've
it's
done
true.
in the past few expansions. We know we made a mistake. So going forward, we'll make World of Warcraft.
Dude, I love being
friendly,
overpowered
and
for
there will be
content
no more
sometimes.
external system grinds. You folks can log in anytime you want to do Mythic Plus, to Raid, to PvP. Progressing your character is as simple as the boss dropping loot, you equipping the loot, and just simply playing the game. That's it.
I think that would be good, but I don't have a problem with some external systems as long as they're account-wide. As long as they are...
So far, agree. If they're gonna introduce some external system, and this is what I guess chat was molding over, which is they heard about the talent tree replacing the Azerite power progression system, which is repeatable farm, external power systems. And they interpret the talent tree as a way of Blizzard saying that, hey, there's no more grinds required, no more external systems. My question is, how much grind is needed to progress that talent tree? Because Blizzard did not explain how the talent tree works in terms of, you know, essentially putting points in. And I know it might be tied to level, I know. But again, we have been baited and switched by Blizzard. That's why I'm skeptical. Because again, for the people who think they know what Blizzard is saying, you have been wrong before. How have we been wrong before? Before Shadowlands, we said that the Covenant system is a bad idea. Choosing one out of these 4 Covenants seems like such a bad idea. What did Blizzard say? Eon Hazikostas basically said that, well, don't worry, we're going to balance all 4 Covenants. It's going to be perfectly balanced, you guys have nothing to worry about. And then what happened? Reality is different from what they promised. So I understand they have already dropped hints of how it works. I understand that. Maybe it's 1 point per level. I understand it was maybe in an interview with Hazel and whatnot. I understand that. But we have been bait and switched before. So why buy into the narrative is my point. Because I've been lied to before, so why should I believe that? Unless I see for myself in the actual build that it is what it is, there's no external grinds, then yeah, perfect. I love it. If there's no external grinds, great. More than happy. Also agree with Asmongold, if they were to introduce an external grind, at the very least, make it alt friendly. Meaning your main goes through it once, your alts don't have to do it anymore. If my main needs to unlock that
or make it go
something like
faster for
warcraft,
alts, that'd be
fine,
better.
I'll do it. I don't like it, but I'll do it. But at least make it friendly on the alts. In fact, if it's a repeatable thing that I have to do daily, then I'm out. But if it's a one-time thing, I have to do like a 30-minute quest line, okay, fine. If it's a 30-minute one-time thing for my whole life, I just need to do 30 minutes, and I'm done, okay, I'll do it. But if it's like every day I have to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes in a zone farming like some boar liver or like some giraffe eyeballs,
Ball over.
then I don't think I want to do that. I'll pass.
I misheard what he said. I said ball lover.
That is designed badly, intentionally to waste your time. I am fine with a decent system that is completely account-wide.
He's wearing a Dota shirt.
System at max level. That's okay.
There's no grind. There's no setup required. If you want to
wait a second. Is that the same shirt? Is that the same shirt, or is it 2 different shirts, just different lighting? Or is it the same shirt, different lighting, or 2 different shirts? Like, they're the same design. Hey, Quazii's pulling an Asmon. Same shirt.
Grind and you want to farm
RNG.
reputations,
Yeah.
those are entirely cosmetic only. I was expecting a strong statement like that would appeal to the old timers who have churned to come back and play, because that was the biggest problem with the game. It wasn't fun because of those things. But yet, what did we get? We got a show.
I think that's true. I think that Blizzard, more than Blizzard trying to get new people into the game, I think what they should really focus on more is just retaining the ones that they have. Like, just retain the people that you have. Like, there are over 100 or
for sure.
120 million registered World of Warcraft accounts.
All right, chat has Asmongold's chat have now swung in the other direction and started agreeing with him again. So I guess this is when the molding haven't started, but it's about to start though, because
That's how his chat always goes, though.
If you had...
Asmon's chat will agree with him for so long, but then he says one thing, one little thing, and they will just lose their mind.
Like what? 10% of those people playing the game? Just 10% you would have the more subscribers than WoW has like pretty much ever had almost. It was on the same par as Wrath, right? Registered accounts, yes, and 50 of them still play. Yeah, it's like 10%. And so like 99% are boosters. I'm sure there's a lot of them are bots too.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is like, I mean, can we all agree like WoW has had a tremendous like social impact? Millions of people have played this game over the years.
Yeah, fair enough. If you can just bring back old timers, that should be the most straightforward business decision for them. How do you bring back the old timers?
You're not going to be able to do that though.
Before all the external systems came about. To me, it's a very, very obvious business decision. I don't know why it takes so long to implement it. We already said it in BFA. Why isn't it implemented in Shadowlands? Again, until this very day, I still don't understand. I feel like Blizzard should have came up for this 10.0 announcement, and since they like to do this round table thing where everyone pretends to be the bestest of friends and sits around the table and talk about their lives and how WoW has changed their lives, maybe one of the conversation topics should have been, why did we not listen to our players' feedback for Shadowlands? Why? Because I like to know. I like to know why in BFA we have said no external systems, yet in Shadowlands we continue to see them. I don't understand that. I feel like if they explained it, maybe the players are more open and empathetic to what happened. Like, look, I want transparency. I have lost trust in this company, right? What better way to win trust of your consumers than to be transparent with them and explain, how did we mess it up? How did we totally ignore players' feedback? At least be totally transparent with us. That's something that I wanted. They can't just say we disregarded your feedback because if you knew the truth, you wouldn't like it. Well, actually, no, not really. Purple Panda, I think that's what they should have done. They should have basically said, we are sorry. We heard your feedback, but we didn't act upon it because we thought we knew what was best. But look, 10.0 is a new beginning. It's a fresh start. We have learned our lesson. From now on, player is king. Player is number one. We will put players first. We apologize. It's as simple as that. It's basically taking a bad situation and spinning it to be a positive situation. Just be transparent about it. Why can't you own up to your mistake? I don't understand this thing. I don't see any downside in them apologizing. There's only upside. Because what's the worst? Tell me, what's the worst that can happen if they apologize? Well, people will meme on them, right? People meme on them and say, these people bowed down just like Yoshi P, blah, blah, whatever. So, at the end of the day, I think they won the trust of many people if they actually explain that. It's not American ideal to admit fault, fair enough. But I'm just thinking, like, from my perspective, where I'm sitting, in a times of crisis like that, when they're trying to make 10.0 as successful as possible, just having the humility to say, all right, we messed up. I'm sorry about getting the Covenant system wrong. The man over here, on the right, Ian Hazikostas, again, assured everyone before Shadowlands that we don't have to worry about Covenants. We told them many times, Covenants is a problem in the beta. Everyone told them. They were like, nope, don't worry about it. We'll balance it so that it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same. It's not the same. All the majors were playing Night Fae. All the boomkins were playing Night Fae. Like, how are they balanced? I don't understand. For me, owning up to their mistake would have been a good start.
A lot of MMO players, many of them, I would say like 90% of them have played WoW and they either aren't playing it anymore or they are, right? Like they have tried it out before. It's mainly about getting those people, not getting some new group of people. Like those people are going to show up anyway.
Case of a cinematic which is, as per all expansions, meant to hype you up. And I must say the cinematic looks good. But beyond that, what did we get? We got a bunch of people sitting around a table talking about how they have listened. And by the way, I've heard this story before that they are listening. But yet, what did they announce? They announced UI changes. They are working on UI changes, which, by the way, I'm willing.
So this tangent he's going on, it makes sense that, but I think the thing that's being confused here is this is an announcement, event. Like they're announcing the new game, they're announcing the new systems and everything, and that's what this event is for. It's not the same as one of Square Enix's live letters, where they go up and they have like a whole day, planned of like, discussions and all that. This was literally, I think, like an hour-long event where they just kind of discussed what their plans were for the next expansion, and to give you a very small look behind the scenes, but not like a deep dive into it. Like they could call it a deep dive all they want, but it's really not all that deep. It's literally just, these are our thoughts about the new systems that we're putting in place. And systems is a huge word that people completely dislike, but every game is a series of systems. And in a development sense, everything from moving your character to, you know, leveling up your character to even the equipment that they equip, that is a whole system. So everybody's concerned about the word systems. Really, they should be focusing on the kind of system. Instead of saying, I don't want systems in my game, what kind of systems don't you want? That's the thing that people need to focus on. But yes, I agree completely. They should be doing a huge discussion piece, like, you know, the live letter that, you know, Square Enix puts on, where Yoshi P and, you know, his team go on and they, you know, they discuss, you know, their failings and what they want to do to make up for the failings and everything. And then give you a little bit more of a sneak peek into what's to come. I think that would be a better approach than what they did do with these pre-recorded videos of them sitting around a table, because while it's cool and all for the PR aspect to promote the next expansion and everything, it doesn't like really reach out to the community and say, hey, so we fucked up. You know, and if they just did that, I think that would bring a lot of folks back. But I don't think they're going to be able to bring back all the old timers. A lot of the old timers, if they're even playing the game anymore, they're mostly in Classic WoW right now. Or maybe a private server somewhere that has some sort of like changes to it. Like, I forget the name of the private server that's always advertised on YouTube for whatever reason. But yeah, like a lot of those old timers, they're not coming back because they're tired of it. But you still have a chance to bring people like Quazii back if you just kind of, you know, you admit your fuck ups and everything. So I think he's right in that aspect. They need to do something like that. But their most recent interviews that they've done after everything has kind of been more on a human level, where they're just like, hey, look, we messed up before, this is what we're trying, we hope to not repeat these same mistakes, but we want more feedback from you guys. And I'm hoping, obviously they always say they want feedback from us, and they haven't quite fully listened to the feedback for a very long time, which ends up leading to them having to completely reverse decisions at the end of the expansions and everything. And, you know, hopefully they will actually show that they've changed in that aspect moving forward. But I feel like that's just a repeated issue that we have every expansion at that point, of us just hoping that they start listening to everybody. So, you know, the saying, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, that whole thing. But yeah.
To guess that at least 50% of the World of Warcraft community uses external add-ons such as Elf UI or WeChorus to configure their HUD and to configure their user interfaces. So
yeah, that's a problem. I don't think it should be like that. I think that you should be able to play the game without add-ons. Like, I think having add-ons in the necessary nature.
All right, chat so far has agreed with me so far. So I guess what tilted them is something that comes later, I think. Mutt says 50%, bruh, it's definitely 99%. Yeah, I think it was probably closer to 80%, Mutt, but I was trying to be conservative, and some people in this chat actually also said 50% is too low, it's probably higher.
Of add-ons is a really big problem. Like, it's a really, really big problem. And as I said before, I will say it every single day, combat add-ons for raiding and Mythic Plus, and potentially also PvP,
remove them,
especially raiding and Mythic Plus, should not exist.
Because now they have to design bosses around WeChorus. When his team sits down and think, okay, how are we going to design this boss without allowing some guy who writes some line of codes to figure out the mechanics in a brain-dead fashion and simply tell you what to do on screen? It's kind of like Kekbot. Kind of like that. Although I would say Kekbot is probably less sophisticated than WeakAura in terms of being able to solve like, you know, batch crazy stuff. WeakAura can do some insane stuff. The fact that the developers need to think like, okay, how do we game the system? How do we design bosses around the add-ons? That to me is, I think it doesn't make for great design of bosses, basically. That's all I'm saying.
Blizzard should break them entirely. Break them entirely, and because of that, everybody will then be playing the game on the same level, and then you can actually design fights that don't have to be overly complex because you're counteracting and trying to counterbalance add-on awareness.
Exactly.
Please, do this.
Exactly. Don't design around add-ons. Revamp of a default UI, but it really
Hold on a second. So there's a chat message up here that says you can't ban Cactbot without banning ACT. So what they're talking about is in Final Fantasy XIV, you've got different programs that you can run in the background that will act as, you got a damage meter, you've got something that kind of lets you know, kind of like DBM does in World of Warcraft. It'll let you know what's going on in a fight and how to react to it sometimes. They're saying you can't ban those without banning the other. Now, I don't know if that chatter realizes it, but they're banned. Those are not allowed. The only thing about it is, as long as Square Enix doesn't know you're using it, and they've admitted it a few times that, they don't, inspect for, programs running in the background, because that would lead to privacy concerns and things like that. As long as they don't know that you're running those programs, they're not going to action you. But if they were to find out in some fashion that you're running these programs and you're using them for any sort of nefarious usages or anything like that, I guess you could say. I can't think of the word. Nefarious was the first thing that popped in my mind. But if you're using them in a way that you really shouldn't be, like let's say you're using ACT to trash on someone's damage output in a fight and to gloat about your magnificent DPS, that's an actionable offense for them, and they can take action on that. So, I mean, technically they're not allowed to be used, but they just don't, they don't look for the program running in the background to, enforce a ban or anything like that. So, the chatter is kind of wrong in that. So I just wanted to point that out because, at the end of the day, that seemed like a kind of a dishonest statement.
A lot of the population, probably to the new players.
I do think that Blizzard, to a certain extent, is actually listening. And you know what I always say, right? Is like, put your money where your mouth is. Like, if they're actually...
And that's another statement that Asmongold said that's 100% true. They are listening. That doesn't mean that they're taking action on your requests. Game developers all over the place see the messages that people post on social media if they access social media. They see the forum posts and everything like that. They may not see your specific post because, there's so many different people out there, so many different voices out there stating their opinion, but they are listening to the feedback. That doesn't mean that they're going to take action on it. So let's say someone says, get rid of rated battlegrounds because this, and this. They're going to hear that feedback, but that doesn't mean they're actually going to do anything about that. They're not going to remove rated battlegrounds because you said so. And that's probably a really bad example, but that's an example. And I think to an extent they've listened to some of the feedback and let it go in one ear and out the other because they want to. They're insistent on trying to make certain things work in the game, but at some point they've wasted so much time trying to get something to work than to just give the players what they want. And so that's the part where players need to start, or Blizzard needs to start just doing that. And honestly, they're not going to be able to give everybody what they want because everybody has different opinions about what they want and everything. And people who say, objectively this is bad. Again, that's a subjective statement. Using objective as your word for that it's an oxymoron. But yeah, everybody's going to have different opinions about something, and, Blizzard just needs to start being more proactive on, actioning on the feedback, or at least putting out a statement saying, hey, we heard you loud and clear. We're going to work on something that will hopefully give everybody what they want.
Willing to lose money and or spend money on something, I think that goes farther for me than any roundtable discussion where they talk about how wrong they are.
Yep. To be fair though, they didn't say they were wrong in the roundtable. I do agree with him. Like, action speaks louder than words. Now, did they make changes already? Well, we've seen some early signs. 9.25, they announced that cross-faction gameplay is coming in 9.25, right? Why is this not enough? Why? It's not enough. Because Blizzard always does this. The final patch of the expansion is where Blizzard goes, hey folks, we've been listening to your complaints from the 0.0 patch where we launched the expansion all the way until the final patch. And hey, we listened to your feedback. And therefore in the final patch, we are now giving you the features that you want. As though they are solving a problem. As though they are providing a solution. When at the end
it's a solution to a problem that they created.
Happen is at the start 9.0, when we tell you problems, fix it immediately rather than wait for the end of the expansion. So yes, I know in 9.25 it appears like they have made changes. I agree, and those changes are good. Cross-faction is going to be great for Mythic Plus. Yet it comes at the final patch. It always happens in the final patch. Show us that at launch you're willing to listen, and then maybe things will change.
The fact that the game didn't have a pre-order is substantial. This is a substantial.
And again, that goes back to the whole thing about them listening and not being proactive about it. It took them a whole lot of time and changes in leadership and everything before finally they're just like, hey, you know what? We've lost a lot of players. Let's make sure that we start trying to work on these things that people want. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily... For all I know, they could have been working on the cross-faction play thing from 9.0, but they just didn't say anything. I mean, it's all I can do is speculate on that. They could have been working on something like that, or maybe it was on a list, like a list a mile long of items that they want to work on, but they've never been really good at pointing out, hey, these are things that we want to eventually incorporate, but it's not high on our priorities yet. And if they would just be open about that, everything would be so much better for them, I think, in the end. It would avoid a lot of unnecessary bullshit coming from the community, which, honestly, you're still going to get that anyway. I know when cross-faction was announced, I'm sure a lot of people saw all the fucking bullshit that people were saying about how it doesn't respect the Warcraft lore and everything, despite the fact that, the Alliance and Horde have been working together to defeat common enemies since, Warcraft 3? I mean, come on. That's what this game's basically built off of, is Warcraft 3. So, I don't know, a lot of those people don't know what they're talking about, but... That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, as far as I know, most of the developers have been listening. It's just they haven't been taking action on it. So I'm pretty sure they've got like this mile-long list of things that they're wanting to do. And there are probably people on the team that want to include those things too. Because, I mean, just like Yoshi P plays, Final Fantasy, there's a lot of people on the WoW development team that play World of Warcraft, and that's why they are on the team, because they loved the game and they wanted to join the company that they loved. And that's the reason why they're still there, even after all sorts of freaking, corporate bullshit and lawsuits and all that. They're trying to make a better game, and they're trying to make a better company.
This is a substantial thing. Am I wrong about this? Like, this is money. Like, of course they're going to have a pre-order, right? But, like, they didn't announce it on the expansion release.
appealing to the churn players. So if this is one of the pillars and attraction of the expansion, that felt very disappointing. What else did we get? Well, we got this whole new showcase about flying on the dragon, how you can train your dragon like the movie How to Train Your Dragon, and dragons that you've never seen before, and how your dragon can somersault, and do 360 movements in the air, you can just momentum. Does that really matter? We play World of Warcraft because of Mythic Plus. PvP,
it doesn't really matter. It's just cool.
Okay, this is the spicy take. I know this is a spicy take. This is a spicy take. There are some people that's gonna go batshit crazy and say like, haha, no, we play World of Warcraft because we like Torghast, and we play World of Warcraft because we like to do dailies, and we play World of Warcraft because we like pet battles, and we play.
Are there people actually like all those?
RP.
Well,
at,
pet battles are pretty cool.
The Goldshire Inn with my fellow night elves, and I like to play World of Warcraft because there's
a lot of people that love Goldshire
and
Inn.
Sell them on the auction house. Like Honey Badger, yeah, exactly. So let's see whether I'm correct. I think this is where I started offending his
Honey
chat.
Badger is farming the Goldshire Inn right now for
where I
ERP.
started offending his chat. Let's see. Honestly,
I think it does. I absolutely think it does. I know Quazii has been a big fan of like Final Fantasy. Like this guy is really, really into Final Fantasy too. Like I've watched a lot of his videos, and so like the reason why Final Fantasy is.
By the way, just a proud personal moment where Asmongold says he has watched many of your Final Fantasy videos. That's a bucket list tick right there. Like one of the biggest content.
There you go.
Your content. So
congratulations,
I'm gonna
Quazii.
tell my mom about it. So after this stream, I'm gonna pick up the phone and just call my mom and say, "Hey, mom, did you know like Asmongold is watching my videos? You know, very proud. I guess I can kind of quit do content creation full time. Just kidding."
And this is mom's reaction. Who's Asmongold? That's great, son. No. What? What is this content creation thing you're talking about? I don't understand.
I'm never going to do that, I think. But anyway, let's carry on.
Really popular, I think, is because it appeals to people that like things like dragon riding. It appeals to people that are in like that middle core of players that are like semi-casual, semi-hardcore, relaxed people that don't want to do like a Mythic Plus dungeon for like 3 hours. They don't want to farm keys. This isn't fun for them. They want to have things that are more relaxed and more chill. I think that's actually a big reason why Final Fantasy is so successful. So I'm actually welcoming, and I'm very positive about bringing in new things and systems into WoW that are agnostic of raiding or Mythic Plus or PvP.
Just to give context for the people who don't watch Asmongold's stream from the earlier days before he started doing variety, right? Asmongold actually started doing a lot of the collection content in the game, which is very similar. In fact, I think he's the only big content creator that does the collection stuff. So, for example, the equivalent of this is people in Final Fantasy XIV Desmophisto triad cards, for the gem mount, right? Asmongold is one of the few. I know that I think there's a couple others that does collection too. I think Hazel does collection as well. He's not technically wrong that potentially if you have more like horizontal progression stuff that casual people can get into, maybe it's healthy for the game. Maybe it's been never tested before though. Like WoW was never big on those things. WoW was always big on the end game, Mythic Plus, PvE, PvP. It was never really about side content. So I do agree that a big success factor is for Final Fantasy XIV. I do agree with that.
So, World of Warcraft was all about side content back in vanilla. Vanilla was all side content. That's all that game was. Like, you had a overarching story, right? But it was very spread out across multiple sub-stories. Like, for example, the Onyxia attunement, the Molten Core attunement. I mean, Molten Core really didn't have much to do with like an overarching story. It just existed. And then, you had Blackwing Lair, the Nexus. They were all separate stories that were separate from each other. But then you also had like all the like side stuff. Like you could do the Frost Saber dailies and stuff like that too. Or I guess they weren't really dailies. You could turn them in however many times you wanted to, but basically you had so much side content to do, to collect all sorts of things. But then it's when BC hit that you started getting more of a narrowed scope because it was focusing on that new thing. And I think that's where they went wrong. I think that's where they started going wrong, because when you expand the story by adding one new section, and you start going from, all right, so I've got all these branching stories coming up, and then boom, it comes to a point, and then you go into the new area, and that's the new hotness. That's where you do everything. I think by them adding all the new content to Outland and not adding all the story to the old world and everything, and not giving players stuff to do in the old world, that's where they started going wrong. And then it's been the same repeat thing every expansion. So I think it's actually kind of nice that they're starting to add more old world stuff for you to do. Like they've got the new Blood Elf stories that you can do. Sorry. They got the new Blood Elf stuff that you can do from max level and everything, where you're going back to Ghostlands to fend off the Scourge invasions and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's a lot of side stuff. But over these things, like the collection aspect of everything, more back to the point that he's making, the collection aspect stuff, that has been more of a community focused thing than WoW focused, like Blizzard focused. So, you can kind of thank the community for doing all this stuff. Like there's a whole Discord for secret finding. That's community led. That's awesome stuff. The fact that there's a whole community dedicated just to finding secrets, good stuff. But yeah, they could do a whole lot more to provide a little bit more focus on that side content. I think they're going to be heading on the right direction with the work orders and everything they're doing for trade skills. I hope that they do a little bit more for pet battles and collections of items and things like that too. But we're gonna have to wait and see on that.
Can WoW emulate that? Big question mark. Because I feel like the fan base is so different. The fan base is so different, and you guys mentioned it in chat as well. Final Fantasy 14, people play Final Fantasy 14. It attracts a certain demo. It attracts a certain audience that is, in my opinion, more geared towards doing those things. Are there hardcore raiders? Yes. Are there people who love PvP? Yes. But I would also argue that there's a bigger percentage of people who are playing Final Fantasy 14 as a means of expressing themselves. More so than World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
Because in World of Warcraft, the only way to express yourself is to go to, Elwyn Forest and to go Shire Inn to RP with other Night Elves. That's the only real
or
way
go
to
farm
express
old
yourself in
content
World of
so that we
Warcraft.
can get
Now,
transmog.
if World of Warcraft tries to do something like that, like what Final Fantasy has done, maybe it could work. I will argue it wouldn't appeal to the older generation. It appeals to the new generation, perhaps. And maybe in the new...
There's a lot of old
10.0
generation folks that would love
they
it.
must do that. They must get fresh blood into the system. They can't just keep relying on Mythic Plus, PvP, and Raid. So I think to that point, I guess Asmon does have a point. I didn't quite think about that in my original video. I think he has a point. I was memeing on the dragon flying thing, which I still believe is a meme. Because it was kind of from Guild Wars 2, I know. But horizontal progression, okay, I'm down for that. I think horizontal progression can be a good variety content.
Literally everything in World of Warcraft has come from another game. The whole MMO aspect of it, EverQuest, and then you have the orcs and all that stuff. A lot of stuff borrows elements from Lord of the Rings, not the game, but the books. Warhammer, even like some of the aspects come from Warhammer. And then a lot of the systems, like your transmogs and stuff like that, those all came from another game too. Like they saw aspects of other games and incorporated that. That's what Blizzard has always done with their stuff to try and keep up with everyone else. The only thing they haven't done, which can be done so simply, is housing. Like, for example, I never played the first EverQuest, mind you, but EverQuest 2, the housing system, you literally, I think within the first 10, 20 levels or so, you can get your own house within like the major city that you start out nearby, and it's your own little instanced house. It's on the same plot of land as everybody else who gets it, but it's your own house. You can decorate it however you want. Blizzard keeps worrying about, oh, what are we going to do? How are we going to insert this into the world? You literally just put a house in the world and let people purchase that house. And then, if you want to visit other people's houses, click on a board and then say, I want to visit my friend's house right here. Things like that. That's all you have to do. It's not difficult. I mean, it might be difficult to code it and everything in the current system that they have. Like, I'm pretty sure they don't have the tools built in for that yet, but it's something that they can start implementing. It's going to be another one of those patched in little, bolted on segments of the game, like so many other bolted on segments of the game, but it's something that they can do. Hell, they could even... So I don't know if a lot of you remember, in Stormwind, there used to be that portal in the sewer district that it looked like it should go somewhere, but like there was those gates in front of it, and they've removed it like recently when they redesigned Stormwind and everything. But all you have to do is just put a little portal area that takes you into an instanced area, an instanced district, like in Final Fantasy, and boom, you've got a whole like neighborhood of houses and everything, and everybody can buy their own houses there. And then they'll have an apartment building that people can buy if they want a cheaper house and they can't get a house, All they gotta do is copy Final Fantasy. I mean, they're doing it with the dragon writing stuff. They may as well do it with everything else. That's another aspect they can do. And World of Warcraft, Blizzard is notorious for doing things like that, and it's good that they do things like that. Keep it fresh with the current modern expectations of what's in a game. That's what people want. But I guess crapping on them about taking a system from Guild Wars 2 is kind of silly, because, I mean, let's again, as I said, everything that they've got in the game is literally from another game. It's just how it's always been.
And it's good for content creators like myself.
Like I'm a big fan of this. I think it's probably at this point, I think it's more important that they lock that down than the raids in the Mythic Plus. Like, they've already figured it out. They've already figured that part out.
I don't know what this whole flying thing could do for World of Warcraft. And then beyond that, we got some new zones. They talk about the new lore about the dragons.
Yeah.
They talked about revamping the professions, which, by the way, if you are not an auction house goblin, which is a very minority part of the population, meaning your focus in the game is not to make gold, you really probably don't really care much about profession. Profession is just there to sustain your activities at endgame, for example, buffing before raid.
Yeah,
PvP.
it is.
All right, bad takes now. All right. I need to rewind this part because this is where the bad takes wall of content started coming in, right? So chat started going like, that's a bad take, like bad take, that's a bad take. And then Asmon went, yeah, it is. So I think this is where people started diverging with Asmon's opinion, and they were calling out Asmon for, pandering to opinions. Let's see. Profession is just there to sustain your activities at endgame, for example, buffing before raid,
yeah,
PvP, or doing Mythic Plus. And one of the pillars in the announcement is they're revamping profession, which I honestly don't get. There's never been a draw of a World of Warcraft. We have people sitting around the table saying they're listening to
true.
But where was the
question marks? He's so mad, not true.
Looting? 4-piece
what the fuck?
Totally random right now. And
That's a very good point. He brings up a very, very, very good point. Personal looting is garbage. It is literal dog shit. The way that it works is pointless. What? Like, okay, so here's how I see it, right? A creation catalyst? Yes, that's true. I don't like the way that personal loot works right now. I think that it is overly complicated.
Chat is molding.
And Blizzard has made it that way. I think that you should be able to do math.
Oh, I feel so heartened. I read one of the chat that says this guy is actually smart. Wow, I'm so heartened.
Master loot if you're in a guild, and I think that there should be a little bit more deterministic ways on how to get some pieces in your gear, because right now you're just playing only a slot machine. And so yes, that's
no, man, it's so true, sadly.
Let me think, what was he saying before?
So let me be clear, I do like personal loot, but only in some circumstances. Like, I feel like, if you're doing a pug dungeon or something like that, personal loot is the way to go. Because we've all, maybe there's some new players or people who haven't played it, but all of us who've played for a while have been there where you're in a raid or a dungeon and you need an item, so you hit need, and then someone else hits need who doesn't need the item, but they just want it so that way they can either use it for transmog, or they can sell it on the auction house, or so they can disenchant it or something like that, and you don't get that option to get it. Now, they added some sort of protection to that later on where, if they didn't need it, like for their class or spec or whatever, and you needed it, they couldn't hit need, they could only hit greed. And that made sense to an extent, right? But then, when it comes to raid, though, they need to allow for, how it used to be, where there was a pool of items that dropped, and, you guys would roll off for the items, or, in some cases, sorry, in some cases you would do like DKP or GDKP or something like that. I feel like a system like that gives more flexibility and power to the guilds who are running, or the people putting on the run itself. Giving players more power and control over, how things operate is ultimately a better option than, a guild going in for, the 5th week in a row, tank still doesn't get their tier piece and stuff like that. And obviously in some cases, that kind of corrects itself over time. But, the problem with personal loot as it is right now in a raid setting is if you get a piece and it's higher item level than what you currently have, you can't trade it, even if you don't want to use it. For example, like, let's say the stats on the weapon that drops, right, are totally crap for you, and you don't think that it would be an upgrade for you. If it's a higher item level than what you have right now, you can't even trade it off. So that is a problem that Blizzard needs to address in some form, and I really feel like allowing for master loot and stuff like that, allowing that to come back would be a benefit. And I did see in an interview where Ian Hazzikostas has said that they would like to bring back master loot, that he's a fan of master loot, but right now with the system that they have in place, basically what it was is they wiped out the old system and brought in the new system, and they just need to figure out a way to get it to work. Now, I don't know how much I believe of that, though, because I remember there was a time where personal loot was an option in groups, and you could do the other stuff. I may be wrong. Anyone can feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what I seem to recall from, I think it was maybe back in WoD or Mists of Pandaria. I don't remember, but I think one of those expansions had personal loot as an option, but it wasn't a requirement. So, I think they could really... I think if they try and reimagine the master loot and stuff like that again, and they get it to working, that'd be great. I think they just deleted that whole system entirely, though. We'll have to see.
Or that professions. I don't know how the profession stuff is going to work. And I also worry that, like, if you're able to the extent that things are BOE, Ian said this was...
But yes, it is basically a slot machine now.
Isn't going to be the case.
This is when I made a lot of enemies. You can literally see chat. The rate of which his chat is scrolling has intensified since I said that. The people who really
fuck master looting. What the hell comment is that?
The people who are trying to make gold, or the people who basically get professions just because they want to sustain their PvE or PvP activities. So I can sense the visceral emotion, the negative hate and the negative emotion settling in from that moment onwards. But Asmongold actually defended my point, which I guess I feel heartened by it. But I can see this is when chat started molding. Now, on the topic of personal loot, since Asmongold mentioned personal looting, I I personally think that personal looting
And thus Honey Badger, risen from the earth.
they need to give us an option.
That chat message is great.
They need to allow the person who creates the raid, meaning the raid leader, he should be able to dictate, is this a personal loot system or is this a master looting system? Why?
Yes.
Because if it's a pug group, naturally let it be a personal looting system. That's the fairest, there's no ninja drama, there's no guild drama. When it's a guild group, a raid leader creates a raid, zones into the instance has a unique ID, the raid leader can decide, I want to do master looting, no personal looting, I get to assign loot. It's the best of both worlds. The people who want personal looting gets personal looting. The people who want to assign loot, like the hardcore try-hard guilds, they can assign loot. I think everyone wins.
Yeah,
But
exactly. And I seem to recall that being in the game before.
The profession stuff
Again, I might be wrong, but I think it was.
Say, here's like a parallel that I can make, right? Is like, you know, like in like Burning Crusade, you would get like primal nethers and like primal nether vortexes and like tier 5 content, right? Or Hearts of Darkness in tier 6. Hearts of Darkness I think are BOE. But the other ones were not. Or at least originally they weren't. I don't remember Hearts of Darkness. No idea. It was many years ago. Anyway,
a lot of those they actually changed the BOE later in the
each
expansion.
Player had a chance to get one of those items, and then they had to put their BOP item up on this work order board, and then somebody else had to go and do it instead of that, right? Do you see kind of what I'm saying, right? And so they would make it instead of them. That I think would be okay, but they have to be BOP, because if
Rudrick Eyes is like clearly the people enjoying the popcorn. He's like, WoW versus Final Fantasy Classic chat. And he's like, this is where the show begins. Chat literally molding like, Final Fantasy bad, WoW good.
Their BOE, you're just going to have people that buy WoW tokens and wail out. Like, it's the same thing like in Lost Ark. Like, look, like Rich and Nick spent like how much? Like $20,000 on Lost Ark? Oh my God.
Right.
Like, it's just insane.
It's crazy.
So, like, yeah, people do the same thing in WoW too.
If you're lucky, you get 4-piece tier set. If you don't, well, good luck being on the bottom of the DPS meters.
Yeah.
People have been complaining.
Oh my God, we're just barely at this
should
point
have taken
still.
the time to address this. And what's more disappointing, they actually cut short Shadowlands. 9.3 was killed. Just like Warlords of Draenor, the final patch was killed because they knew they had to cut losses to focus on a new expansion. So that's why we got the sad cinematic of the jailer dying as a Lego Bionicle that ran out of battery. And Arthur's died.
Your Lego Bionicle? Oh my God.
It's good to know he likes to take. Well, you can see Chat is making a comeback. Chat is making a comeback. I've won some brownie points with this take here. Like, Chat is laughing now. I made Chat laugh.
Brownie
so
point.
maybe they've forgotten some of the hate that I mentioned about professions, but it's gonna come back later because I think there's another so-called bad take coming. But yeah, stock is rising for now. It's gonna go the other way real soon though.
Where's the lie? You know what I mean? Like, where's the lie?
It's the truth.
Yep, true. I actually think it's the right decision.
True and real.
Like, it is. People weren't liking Shadowlands. The expansion was already, it had a terrible reputation. People fucking hated it. Good. Move on. That's what they did, and when we got Legion out of that.
Yep. The law was tarnished because of that. Because apparently the whole jailer shenanigans went back all the way back to Warcraft 3. And you're saying you sacrificed all of that just to do this announcement where there was really nothing of value that was shared. There's a new class, yes, and it comes with 2 new specs. I understand that. But in order to play this new class, if you're telling me I have to go through the entire grind again, then it's utterly pointless. Now you might say, hey, they didn't announce anything about external systems or borrowed power, so maybe there's no longer external systems or borrowed power. But I would ask you the question, if that was really their intention, would they not have actually announced it up front to say, hey folks, we listen, there's no more borrowed power, there's no more external systems. This is where they went crazy.
They can't do that. They can't do that. The reason why they can't do that, they did and they didn't. So they did, but like he didn't say like, oh, they said they were trying to move away from it, right? Like what I'm saying, like Ian, you have to remember, Ian is a lawyer, okay? So whenever Ian says moving away from does not mean that we're not doing it at all. Yeah. It just means that we are moving away from it.
Agree, but I guess I've been so emotionally damaged that I'm not willing to settle for even
emotionally damaged.
of repeatable grind. Again, one-time quest is fine. But if you want me to do repeatable grind, even though it's improved, and I'm sorry, the emotional damage is too much. I can't do that. So, okay, fair point. I take your point that Ian Hazikostas is a lawyer by training. He doesn't want to.
I think the only thing that I could argue with that is everything in Warcraft, everything in Final Fantasy is repeatable to some aspect. Like, the difference is making that repeatable content compelling enough for you to want to go and do it. Final Fantasy had the daily roulette stuff, right? Where you would go in and you would get, for the first time you do it for the day, you would get this massive reward. That's repeatable. You repeat it every day. That's why it was a daily roulette. But again, it's something that you can choose to do. Like, I think the problem with this expansion was at the start, Torghast was a requirement. There was no alternative sources for Soul Ash, with the exception of maybe your mission table might have a mission to give you Soul Ash. And Torghast was not compelling enough of a piece of content that made people want to do it over and over again. That's why it became Choreghast to people. I mean, look, Quazii said it before. He doesn't mind grinds. He's okay with grinds. He likes some grinds. Some grinds are fun. What they need to do is they need to, if they're ever going to implement a system that requires a certain type of material or currency to be able to progress in that system, they need to make sure that they give you plenty of options on how to acquire this currency. Sure, it may make some people feel like they got to do all of it just to get it, but that's just for like a small handful of completionists that want to do this. The average normal person who goes in there knows what type of amount of time they have to commit to something per day, and they'll be like, well, you know what, I only have time to do this, so I'm going to pick the most fun way to acquire this material, and they're going to go grind that, and they're going to do it however is most fun to them. Makes, like, for in the instance of Soul Ash, if they would have just made Soul Ash as something that you would acquire through completing heroics or mythic plus dungeons or something like that, people would have been a lot more happy with doing that. And even if it was a smaller amount than what Torghast provided, mythic plus content is so widely used by many people that it would make it worth it. Like, they would go into it, they would get it just by doing the content that they would normally do on a regular basis. You know, even if they added, I know for the PvPers, for example, PvPers were upset because they had to do Torghast so that they could be competitive in PvP for their legendaries. If you would have given them an incentive to win a battleground so they can get, you know, a higher amount of Soul Ash, but if they lost, they get a small amount of Soul Ash, that would make everything so much better and would allow PvPers to stay in their PvP content that they love. And then PvEers, they could go, if they could have just gotten it through doing dungeons and raids, LFR, you know, all that, it would make everybody so much happier. But they didn't. And I think the thing with Quazii is, he's correct in the fact that your grindable, repeatable content needs to be fun. You need to be able to choose to do that. You don't force people, you don't pigeonhole them into doing a specific bit of content that's not fun to someone. And, you know, that's kind of why I've been enjoying the fact that in Zareth Mortis I could just buy a freaking cache of freaking Soul Ash and all that stuff and not even have to fucking do Torghast unless I want to. I've been having some fun in Torghast lately though, so I haven't had too much trouble taking myself through there. But not everybody's like me, you know?
Comment in black and white. I get it. It's not good enough for, I guess, people like me. And you can say, well, why does your opinion matter? You are just one of the content creators. And that's
every
true,
opinion
well,
matters.
My YouTube channel.
Every
so I post
opinion
whatever
matters.
I want, right? So that's that.
You see what I'm saying? Yes, we're just moving away from it. And so this is...
Anybody who says, why does your opinion matter, is stupid. I'm just going to flat out say that. If you think that someone's opinion doesn't matter, you're stupid. Like, everybody's opinion should matter. Everybody's opinion is the reason why certain things occur. Okay? There's such a broad scope of people that play this game. And so if they're trying to cater to everybody, like Blizzard are trying to do, like, they're not trying to focus on one subset group. While a lot of actions they take does focus on, like, one subset group, they are trying to make it for everybody. And if you're doing that, those opinions matter. Just point blank.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that we're not doing it at all. It's just we're moving away from this. And so always listen. Whenever Ian says something,
I'm going to try not to pause too much. Otherwise, it's going to be really long.
That he uses. Okay?
It's already really
because
long.
He says it for a very specific reason. So
I think I've already spent the length of the video
I think that they can't say they're
watching and pausing and giving my takes.
Borrowed power has turned into a meme in the community. Everything now is borrowed power.
There's even a quest in Zareth Mortis called Borrowed Power.
It's like gear, tier sets, like all of these things are borrowed power, but they're things that people like.
Yep.
The problem is not borrowed power. It's how long you
it's the
borrow
implementation.
it for, and how much of it you retain,
Yeah, fair
and
point.
how many times the system refreshes, and how fun it is to progress through the system.
It's the implementation of
Power
it.
is not
That's a new take.
fundamentally bad. It's just bad in the ways that they've implemented.
Who you borrow it from?
It's extremely out-friendly, no more grind required. Don't you think they would have made that announcement up front?
They kind
the
of
fact
did,
that
though.
they didn't. This whole thing feels like the whole same song and dance I've seen so many times. A cinematic to hype you up or to instill FOMO. People sitting around a table saying that they heard our feedback, and yet it doesn't translate into action of what they're announcing. And that part really puzzles me. So if I were to phantom a guess, it's just that they don't want to announce those things right now, because that is gonna set off. Alright, chat has kind of came around again. So chat was molding. Chat was molding about my take around external systems, because they feel like Eon Hazikostas actually did say, and let me clarify, when I did my reaction video, it was immediately after the announcement. I have not seen the interviews, the many interviews that Eon Hazikostas did with the other content creators, or the other interviews that was posted the next day. And yes, he did drop.
I can tell, and it's not a bad thing, but I can tell.
Systems and borrowed power, I know that. Yes. As this point of the video, and
I'm sure by now he's gone back and watched some of that.
Recorded it immediately after the announcement. That being said, though, chat was molding, and then now they seem to have came around when I said
chat
I've
always
seen the
molds
same
though.
song and dance. So I guess chat has gone like, I hate Quazii. Oh, he's true. I hate Quazii. Oh, he has a point. I guess they are kind of bipolar actually, of a huge backlash in the community. That is my...
I think that you're partially right. I do. I think that he's partially right. Yeah, is that there are certain things they probably didn't want to announce right now because they were worried that the community would interpret it in the wrong way. Like, for example, if they said, hey, we're going to continue iterating on Torghast into a new system in Dragonflight as well, I would be really happy about that because I think that it's a good idea, because they should continue working on their systems. But a lot of other people would not be, right? You guys are saying in chat, no, 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 no. So yeah,
Chat
of
molding.
course they're not going to announce that at the beginning, because
One thing's for sure though, the video really lit a fire in the bellies of chat. Everyone is
It really
strongly
did.
opinionated. And actually that's the best for a streamer, when your chat is on fire. Just like when Honey Badger was here, chat was on fire, literally on fire.
because that's all people would focus on. Yeah, that's my whole point. Yeah, and so yeah, they're probably going to announce that stuff later on whenever they can explain it in more detail. They're worried about stock price. It's a good concept that needs work. Asmongold simping for
Look.
another content creator. Hate to see it. Wait, what?
That comment about they're worried about stock price. I don't think the development team is worried about stocks. Development team are not stockbrokers. They're not the board. That's the board's thing they're concerned with. And all the board's saying is, hey, fix the game however you need to fix it to make it profitable again. That's literally all. The only people who are worried about stock price at this point. The development team, anybody in the actual creation group of Activision Blizzard, they're not worried about stock price so much. They probably, the higher ups probably hear something from higher up above them, and then it kind of rolls downhill, but their primary focus is on the game. They're not worried about the stock prices.
Oh, snap.
Actually, guys, Dom, he has no idea what he's talking about?
Oh, snap.
Okay, let's go back to what I said at the very beginning of the show.
Saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. Quazii has literally put so much time in this game and helping people in this game, and saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's bullshit. That's total bullshit.
Is the way that I believe millions of people look at WoW. This is a guy who has probably played WoW for the last at least 10 years. He is seeing the same bullshit that he's seen many times before. This is exactly what happened in WoD. I remember this happening. I remember in WoD people saying, I'm not going to buy Legion because WoD was fucking terrible and fuck Blizzard. I'm tired of getting tricked. I didn't like Miss Pandaria. I thought WoD was going to be better. It was awful.
It was the shittiest of expansions until Blizzard showed me they are capable of even screwing it up even more when they released Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands. WoD was really bad. You guys want to know how bad WoD was? Warlords of Draenor. In the final patch, they had a raid called Hellfire Citadel. Now, granted, the raids in Hellfire Citadel are actually really good. Some of the fights there are amazing. Gorfin is actually one of the most fun bosses. And I think there are a lot of other
you like
bosses in
Gorfin?
Hellfire Citadel. That said, though, we had 1 year and 4 to 5 months of no content. There was no content because the final patch was being cut because Warlords of Draenor was so bad. People didn't want to play Warlords of Draenor. The only good thing that was going for it was the raid. So all I literally did, and I paid, a subscription, monthly subscription. All I did was literally raid. I just raided. I did nothing else because there's nothing else to do.
On that comment about the lack of content, honestly, I think Nighthold, where you go face to face against Gul'dan, should have been at the end of Warlords of Draenor. And then you introduce Illidan Stormrage back into the story right then and pushes your way into Legion. I think that's how it should have gone. He should have been like the face of the Legion expansion from the very beginning. Shouldn't have been a crystallized, imprisoned, you know what I'm talking about. It should have been the other way around. That's how I think it should have been. I think that should have been the final raid that led into the next expansion. You'd have to kind of figure out how to get players over to Suramar to be able to do that, but that's how I felt about it.
So I just raided and I was like bored as hell. But there was the copium that kept me going. Back then the copium was strong. Just like in the 80s, the US dollar was strong. Back then, Warlords of Draenor, copium was very strong. Yoshi P doesn't have, the treatment for copium. It doesn't exist. Back then, there was only one alternative. So that was what led to people like me holding on. I continued to play WoW. Continued to pay my sub. I was basically telling myself, well, if I don't play WoW, what else can I play? So might as well go and play World of Warcraft. At least I'm good at the game. I'm familiar with the game. I have some friends playing this game, so I might as well give my money to Blizzard. Even though I don't like
100% pure Azerothian copium.
There's no alternative. Everyone was like, okay, it's fine. We'll just pay money. Legion will be good. Right? And to be fair, Legion was actually good in my opinion versus BFA and Shadowlands, which is an absolute shit show. But to Asmongold's point, Warlords of Draenor, I've been there, we've done that. The old veterans remember. We actually remember the same song and dance. Can you blame us for being skeptical? Can you blame the veterans for being more skeptical when Blizzard does the same thing? Show you a wonderful cinematic, show you some dragons flying around, talk about a talent system revamped and a UI revamp, a new class. Like, I think we want more. I think our standards have gone up. It's just like when you're young. When you're young and you play any video game, it probably was the best experience you ever had. Just imagine the first time you touch a video game. I don't know what you guys played. The first time you touch a video game, what was it? The first time I played a video game, it was like Super Nintendo SNES. It was Super Mario World. To me, that was like the best shit ever. That was the best shit ever because you don't have a frame of reference.
You started that late?
I remember, like, you know, just in my head, telling myself that,
I wonder if he's younger than me.
I can't believe an entertainment source like this exists. I can play this for ages. But when I look back on Super Mario World today, one can easily say, well, the graphics are really bad. Why is this Italian plumber so pixelated? I don't understand. And why is the princess so useless? The princess is always being captured. And why is it that I always have to go to a
That's the old
castle where
trope.
she's held? Like, can't she be held somewhere else like a prison or a dungeon? It's always a castle. I don't know why. As you grow
The castle
older,
is the dungeon.
you become more cynical. You play more video games, and naturally, like, your frame of reference is just different, right? So it's the same thing here. I'm a WoW veteran. I've seen 10 years of this thing. I've seen the song and dance. I've seen the ebb and flow. Naturally, over time, your expectation changes. You want more from these announcements. So that's my point of view.
And Blizzard had to earn that trust back.
It's a fair point of view.
I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's absolutely good. That's a very good thing. Same with you, but you don't see it somehow. Well, that doesn't mean anything, right? I don't even know what that means. But like what I'm saying is that, why is it valid when he said this, but you ridicule us in chat?
Oh, snap.
Oh my God.
They're saying favoritism. Asmongold is favoritism right now. Basically, chat is saying that, hey, I said the same thing as what Quazii said. But why is it that when we say it, Asmongold says that you guys are dumb? And then it's different when it comes to, you know, react to this. I don't know what he's going to say, but I just thought it's funny. Like, chat has some of the funniest takes sometimes.
Oh my God, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this for like an hour, right? But let me explain why it's different. Okay? Number one, people are listening to him. Nobody's listening to you.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, shit. That was a honey badger moment there. Some people are just so obsessed, like, their world is centered around themselves. In fact, like, I wouldn't even take offense if you don't care about my opinion. Because, like, just like Honey Badger has rightly pointed out, I am just a dumbass creator, right? I'm just a dumbass person on the internet expressing my views. I am not a special snowflake. In fact, if you come to my chat and tell me, well, I think your take is dumb, I'll just say, yeah, that's a fair point. Like, you know, we can agree to disagree. But there are some very special snowflake that needs the streamer to validate their existence. And they need the streamer to validate their opinions. It's almost as though if they don't go on Twitch chat and they don't get validation from their favorite streamer, somehow life is meaningless. These are the people that I think probably, like the old, you know, saying goes in the video game community, they need to go out there and touch some grass. They really need to go out there and touch some
That's
grass.
the saying.
Because they need to seek
That's
validation
the saying.
from people outside of content creators. They are not we are not special snowflakes. We don't need validation from Asmongold. You don't need validation from me. Go out there, touch some grass, get some sunlight. You'll feel way better.
Number one. Number two, I think that he's explaining it in a better way than somebody in chat who's saying, bad take, Baldy, this expansion is going to bad.
When will special snowflakes realize
It's going to bad.
the best way to win an argument is to basically put it out in plain logic? At least have some logical sense when you want to criticize content creators. Like, we are more than happy to debate. It's really whether you put in the effort to make your comments sound logical, constructive. Can you express yourself well? In this case, if you call Asmongold a baldy, why do you think he cares about you? He don't give a shit about you. You call him a baldy, why should he react to you?
You see what I'm saying? So yes, I'm addressing I'm addressing the way that he feels about it differently because he's expressing himself differently. Yeah, obviously. So yeah, I think a lot of people feel this way. And I even said this before. A lot of people are just they're burned. They feel like we got fucked over with Shadowlands, we got fucked over with BFA, And Legion wasn't as good as people thought it was. A lot of people feel that way, especially the first two. Yeah. Absolutely. Let me see, we had 2 Gigatrash expansions in a row, though, not one like WoD.
I think Asmongold's chat is actually an amalgamation of the younger generation of World of Warcraft players, the so-called, what we call the BFA babies, the people who came in BFA, very fresh to World of Warcraft. They never knew the good times of, you know, Legion, Cataclysm. Well, Cataclysm is all good times. Like Mists of Pandaria, Wrath. They never seen the old days. So that's that.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Babies that graduated from BFA. And then there's like the old guards who's been here forever. They were there when Asmon was like doing Satarion 3D back in Wrath. They were there when he was doing like hard modes in Udwa. I think there's a bit of a mix of his audience, and therefore like some people get what he's saying, and then some people are like, no, we are special little snowflakes. Please like us. Streamer, like us for our hot takes.
And that's why they feel this way. And
Notice
so
me, streamer.
It needs to win these people back.
I guess this was the most important thing that I was looking for, and it wasn't found in the presentation. So you can put all the eye candies in front of us, but to me it's pointless because you haven't solved the root of the problem. You're simply trying to distract us with new toys and new candies when the root of the problem is just sitting right there. And that is why it was utterly underwhelming. To cut short Shadowlands, to put additional dev resources into making the next expansion good, and then at the announcement to actually show only these things. When the presentation ended, I actually looked at the monitor and I said, is that it? Alright, this is a hot take, I think. This is also like 50-50 this chat. I would say actually 60% disagree, 40% agrees. Where were the slides? Where were the presentation for what is coming in Mythic Plus? How many dungeons do you have at launch? What are the dungeons? Will you be adding new dungeons at every patch? Will they be added to the Mythic Plus cycle? How many raids will there be at launch? What is the content cadence coming for raid and PvE and PvP?
I think they honestly don't know that yet, though.
A lot of those, but like, yeah, I think a lot of people, like, yes, they've answered many of these things, right? They have.
In the interviews, again, I reacted to this video immediately after the 1 hour live stream of Blizzard ended. And if I recall correctly, the interviews actually came out around like, I guess 8 hours later, 12 hours later, when people started publishing their takes. With, you know, a personal interview with Ion Hazikostas and whatnot. But yes, chat is molding here. I think this was probably the most triggering point for chat because they're like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Because by the time Asmongold reacted to this video, the interviews were already out. Now, when I recorded and published the video, the interviews weren't out. And that's why in the comment section for my video, you see a disparity in comments. The first 12 hours of comment is basically like, yeah, you have a point, and of course there's some WoW NDs like Honey Badger, they will come in and Final Fantasy 14 suck! World of Warcraft best game! Like, there's people like that. But after the 12
there's
hours,
a lot of those.
The interviewers, you know, all the interviews started coming out, then you started seeing more comments like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Clearly, Ion Hazikostas said in the interview with Hazel that this is XYZ, blah, 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 yada, yada. And fair point. But why wasn't it in the initial announcement? I don't get it. What's the point of putting it in an interview? I don't get it. Like, are you telling me that people sitting around a round table talking about their feelings about the game, talking about how they've listened, talking about how they've learned over the years, more important than covering this during the 1 hour live stream of your premiere, the premiere of your new expansion? I would think that most people would rather hear those things in that 1 hour rather than seeing people sit around a round table and talking to one another. By the way, not even looking at the camera. They're looking at one another.
Not necessarily.
It's not like I am talking to you guys in chat now like I'm looking at the camera. They are talking to one another like that. They're basically talking to one another like that. I think I would very much rather see announcements about, you know, Mythic Plus, dungeons, raids, blah, blah. I would love to see that rather than see people talk about their feelings.
I would like both.
I think
I really
it's very
do.
obvious. And like, didn't Ian or whoever say this yesterday? That like clearly the goal.
Like, I know I said this earlier, but like I would literally like both. I think this announcement thing that they did was valuable for what it set out to do, and that was to, you know, give their thoughts on what they're doing and give some insight on what to expect. I think that's all that it was set up for. I think that was their goal the entire time, was just to, you know, give us an idea of what to expect. Now, the interviews afterwards, they've kind of expanded on their thoughts about where they failed and everything, and that's great. I think they should definitely, again, like I said earlier, they should do a live letter type situation where they discuss everything at length, you know, have one or two devs sitting there talking to the fans, not to each other necessarily, but to the fans, and, you know, kind of go over some of the criticisms and what they want to do moving forward, rather than just doing interviews with Preach or Talias and Inevitell or Asmongold. If they did a live letter type setup, everything would be so wonderful. Like, it's like they were trying to do something like that for a while when they had Lore hosting these discussions with Eon Hazakosis. You know, they were heading in the right direction with doing stuff like that, but they didn't do it nearly enough, and then they just kind of stopped. I think if they did that again and took on more of the aspect of the live letter, how that approach did, I think they would garner a lot more understanding and love from the audience.
Of this current the goal of the expansion is to not really have like a big bad, to have it like kind of the vibes of Mists of Pandaria, where like there's not like some big enemy that we know that we like it's on the box. Like they've literally said this the whole time, and so I think that's a good thing. I do, but I felt the same way, to be honest. I felt the same way with Mists of Pandaria. Like I was like, where's Deathwing, where's Arthas, you know, like what do we do now? And so yeah, I think that's fair. And it's just, I wish that we knew more about like what we were like, what the conflicts in the story were, because I feel like there's no real, like, yeah, there's like these guys in the Dragon Isles that are like assholes or something. Like I don't even know, like what are we even doing over there? You know what I mean? Like what's the point?
Well, let's just put it this way: the story is written by Steve the Noozer, the guy who literally told us that the Arthur storyline goes back to Warcraft 3, the Jailer goes back to Warcraft 3. He was plotting all these things, including Arthas's descent into madness, Sylvanas' betrayal. We are all told these were the truth and the gospel of the World of Warcraft lore by Steve the Noozer. Now, when you have Steve the Noozer talk to you about dragons and the origins of dragons, and dragons like you have never seen before, honestly, you don't know whether to take this guy seriously, because he can try and explain to you. There's only two possible outcomes. Number one, you either am utterly confused because you don't know what the hell is going on, or number two, there's probably only disappointment because, well, this is the guy who wrote that, you know, Jailer was back in Warcraft 3. So I think he has a point. Maybe there could have been more about the origins, the lore, make people more excited. Maybe. But then again, yeah, I discount the probability of that happening.
A little more details on the story.
Like that, because, well, Steve the Noozer is in charge of the story. So that's that.
So yeah, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. I don't think that we necessarily...
I don't think it's necessarily 100% fair to pin it all on Steve the Noozer, though, because there's multiple writers for, you know, the Warcraft team. There's a whole lot of writers. And they're all working together to make this story. It's not just Steve the Noozer who's making the story. They got Chrissy Golden on the Warcraft team now. She's not just writing books anymore. She's working on the game. But I think that's also an issue that kind of comes when you put out this continuous story over the course of all these years. Like, we're getting close to 20 years of Warcraft here soon. I think, maybe in 2024, I think, we're going to be hitting the 20th anniversary or something like that. So, I mean, eventually you get to a point where you're just like, okay, what do we need to focus on now? Do we go back and retcon something? Because they kind of write themselves into a corner in some instances. So sometimes you got to go back and, like, rewrite that part, I think. And it sucks to think about. But, I mean, you can only create new stories so much that people enjoy without I don't know, because everybody's gonna have differing opinions on things. Like, I feel like Shadowlands was an attempt at trying to tell a whole new story, and then just kind of it flopped, and they're like, okay, well, guess what? Jailer's behind everything. I think that's what that was. Probably kind of like a, to try to tie it all back in together. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure some of the criticism is founded and everything, but I don't think you can technically blame just one person. He's just the face of the team, really.
Necessarily need to have. I feel like one thing that's actually like been bad for the game is the over fixation on raids and Mythic Plus.
And just to say one more thing before I move on, Christy Golden is a good writer, so I don't blame anyone in particular for anything. I just think it was just everything was just done poorly this time around, and things happen.
And I'm glad that they're creating content beyond that. So hopefully that's what happens.
Arenas. Solo queue, team queue. Are there any changes to the systems here? World of Warcraft is not competing against people who have no idea what they're doing in the MMORPG landscape anymore.
Before,
Developers out there, big or small, are putting together content cadence as a plan to showcase to people, this is our plan. There's phase 1, there's phase 2, there's phase 3. We'll add features here, we'll add features there. But where was this whole thing? What are some of the new things you're working on in the later patches? Is there personal housing? This is something that people keep speculating that World of Warcraft will bring back. They made no mention about it. And you say...
Ian talked about it a lot in an interview, but like that was about it. And like this is generally what's going to happen is like this is a problem with the way...
Okay, now chat is molding again. Chat is molding again. Some people are like, yeah, this is a chat. He makes good points. Finally, YouTuber that makes sense. And then it goes the other way. This guy is annoying AF. This guy spews dog shit. So, chat, if you ever want to aspire to be a content creator, you must have...
His name's Spankadelic. You can't really,
to be thick-skinned
count on his takes being
personally. By the way, this is actually
valid.
Good life advice. Like, don't ever take things personally. Like...
that Blizzard does...
Hold on a second. Riot is making an MMO too. Perhaps that will finally kill WoW. No. Let's stop with the whole WoW killer thing. That's stupid. It's dumb. It's been done before. MMOs have tried to market themselves to being a WoW killer and failed. They need to stop focusing on killing WoW. They need to start focusing on doing something entirely different that they set out to do, that they're passionate about, and the passion in the project will show to the players, and the players will love it, and then they'll choose whether they want to play WoW still or not. Don't worry about whether you're killing WoW. Do your own thing.
Sometimes in the way that they handle like press releases is that I don't think it's reasonable to expect somebody who is not an active player of World of Warcraft to keep up with every single interview that's happened.
Fair point. Look, I have Lodestone to read. I have FF14 ready to do. I am probably spending an unhealthy amount of time in Crystalline Conflict when I'm not streaming, and you guys probably know that if you're on my friends list, even offline, I'm playing too much Crystalline Conflict. Probably that is not too healthy for my sleep cycle. But there's just too much things to do. I don't have time to go and read and watch every single interview with like Hazel.
Probably not.
And I can't remember Bajira and all these things. Like, yeah, so long story short, I think somebody made a very good point in the chat. And by the way, again, I apologize for not reading every single line of chat. I actually am reading every line. I'm not vocalizing them because I don't want to disrupt the flow of the video. But someone made a good point, which is in the future videos when I react to it, I should probably put a disclaimer like, when am I reacting to this? If I made a disclaimer upfront to say I'm reacting to this immediately after the conference, then maybe the NDs in the chat wouldn't be molding so hard. I wouldn't have made so many enemies. Maybe. Well, it's hard to tell, right? Because it's this chat, so they're quick to jump on you.
It wouldn't matter. They wouldn't read it.
World of Warcraft, like the actual like their PR and media team should do
like
better
literally at work. I have put signs, like 3 or 4 signs around a coffee maker that said we have no lids, and people come in. They read the signs and they say, you don't have any lids? Or do you have any lids? And it's like, bro, literally, like, there's no... People don't read things like that. Even if you put a big words right here says filmed immediately after the presentation. No one would read that. They would listen to what you're saying as second monitor content, and then they would react to it as that. Asmongold, for the most part, is second monitor content for some people. And as soon as they hear something they don't like, they rush over to the second monitor and start typing out their comment in an angry fuss, and then they just like hit send. They don't even think. So it wouldn't matter.
At trying to consolidate the information from these interviews and make sure that people do know about it. Because like Ian talking about player housing was a huge question, and you wouldn't even know that unless you watched the Hazel interview.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that, you know, you could say, well, that makes people want to watch Hazel interview. Well, yes, but like,
it's like having to get story points from the books instead of in game.
Know to do that in the first place.
I do know
I
Hazel.
wish Blizzard did a better job of consolidating.
It's all over the place.
That they relay to people on like the interviews on like an official site or something like that.
Or just simply cut out the part where it's 3 people talking about their feelings and what they felt when they first played Wrath of the Lich King, and you know how much they have learned over the years and how they love their fans and they want to rebuild the dream. Just cut out all that bit about people talking on a table. Just show us some slides. Here's Mythic Plus, 8 dungeons at launch. You know, there's going to be some old dungeons that will be recycled into Season 2. You know, here's the plan for PvP. Why don't we have some slides? Just do some slides, not that hard.
But I do think it is important that Blizzard is able to bring people like Quazii back into the game, or at least keep them, like at least make it to where they are not overly negative about the game. And the only way they can do that, they cannot do that with words. In my opinion, I don't think they could even say anything that would make people happy. Because even if they say the good stuff, then people will just assume they're going to do it in a bad way.
But what about this? Or it took you long enough. Or too little, too late.
It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Like, if you cry wolf, like, falsely for 2 times, what makes you think for the 3rd time, I believe there's a wolf coming? Why should I believe you? I've given you the benefit of the doubt more than once. BFA, I gave you the benefit of the doubt. When we started BFA, and everyone was absolutely bored to death of farming island expeditions. Because you need to get that island expeditions done, else you cannot unlock the Azerite traits on your Azerite armor. When we were doing island expeditions, I hated that shit.
I hated island. Yeah, I hated it too.
It was on the
Trust me.
like, this shit sucks. I hate farming islands. Stop making us farm islands. We don't want to farm Azerite power.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we listen. Don't worry.
That was my Torghast.
Did they change? No.
That was my Torghast.
In fact,
I hated
they
it.
kept Azerite armor, and they added essences, another layer of complexity. And by the time 8.3 roll around, you need to have Azerite armor, you need to have essences, and you need to have corruption. They all need to work together as a package. The borrowed powers stacked on top of one another. They were not like singular entities. They were stacked.
Oh god, yes it was.
So I got bitten more than once. The other one was Covenants, like I told you guys. Covenants at the start of Shadowlands, played the beta, said it was really bad. I did lots of videos. Well, not only Preach did a video on it. Preach, one of the, still is the largest WoW content creator back then. He made a video to say, pull the ripcord. He wanted to start a movement called Pull the Ripcord movement.
Pull the ripcord.
WoW needs to put the brake.
I remember that.
On Covenants, halt, stop right.
I've said this in a tweet replying to someone before. I don't remember who it was I was replying to, but I don't believe that they actually had a ripcord to begin with. I believe that when Ian Hazakosis said, at some point we can pull the ripcord, I think that was more of a metaphor rather than actually them having one in place. I don't think they actually had a ripcord. I think they were falling out of the airplane with a parachute that didn't have a ripcord. Like the ripcord was just removed somehow, manufacturing error or whatever. There is no ripcord. So now that they're falling, they still have no parachute out. They have to wait on someone else to swoop down and get a hold of them so that way they can let the other person pull their ripcord. I think, honestly, they didn't have a ripcord to begin with. I think this is all just reaction to all the negativity that has happened over the course of the expansion, and that's why it took them so long to react and make the changes that they did. That's my take on it.
Right now, stop there. But Eon Hazikosa said, nope, don't worry about it. We got it covered. We'll figure it out. They didn't figure it out. So pardon me if I don't believe
I'm jumping out of this airplane. It has no ripcord, but we'll figure it out.
You're crying wolf again. I don't know whether to believe you or not. I'd rather sleep through the night because filthy casuals like me, according to Honey Badger, needs time to sleep so I can play my 3 hours of video game the next day. So that's that.
So like they're never gonna win. You just have to. The best apology. Remember what I said before about like streaming, right? If you're a streamer and like you're getting canceled or something like that, what is the best apology? Good content.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the apology that the viewers want. The good content. People are like, they're unhappy with like what you did. You know, you did something, made your viewers upset or whatever. Come on the next day, have a good stream that doesn't have any of that bullshit on it, and they will move on just as fast as they got onto it in the first place.
Actually, this is
Well,
another good
not
life
very
lesson,
fast,
right?
but,
tangent,
you know,
but
over
know,
time.
Life lesson, right? So earlier we talked about not taking haters personally, like not taking hate comments personally. It's actually quite true. Like people on the internet forget really fast. Now, I have seen some people being cancelled and they came back and they started doing their own thing again. People forgotten what happened, right? Like there were some scandals. I think it's not only common in WoW, but I think in Final Fantasy 14, there's also like scandals, you know, people like getting into dramas.
It's on the internet
like,
in general.
You know, there were some Discord communities that had their own drama and stuff like that. I wouldn't go into the drama, but all I'm saying is, it's the internet. People tend to forget really fast. Like 1 year, 2 years on, people forget. You know, you just do your thing. Again, actions speak louder than words.
Yep.
And all I'm saying is, he brought out a good point, which is the best way to come back from, I guess, a setback is just to keep your head down. It's a very Asian work ethic. You can say like, okay, that's very Asian of you to say. And I think it's true though. Like the best way to get over like a setback is to keep your head down, stay humble, look forward, get the work done, let action speak for itself. That's that. You hear feedback about personal looting.
It's true though.
Like that, but where are the
really
changes?
is.
Where's the changes for raids? And don't tell me you don't have the technology to make master looting a thing that is optional.
You receive feedback,
you can make
and then you
when
just
create a
put in the
party
work
personal
to
looting,
improve.
And then the party leader can basically decide to do master looting. But the moment you decide it's locked to the instance or the ID of the raid, you can basically do that. You have the technology to do so. But why are such things not addressed? Have you learned nothing from the failures of your game? That is what really puzzled me.
I feel like they don't. I don't know why they're not doing master looter.
Thank you very much. I am very puzzled about master looting as well. I am very puzzled because I'm sure the technology exists somewhere in the depths of Blizzard Entertainment's office, where somewhere in
It's
the
locked away on a
server
thumb
racks, there
drive.
exists a line of code that can make this a reality. But I don't know why they don't want to do it, and it's so frustrating.
It's on the old server blades that they auctioned
I
off.
don't understand why they're not doing it. It doesn't make sense to me. Because, like, if guilds do it, everybody in the guild is going to vote for it. There's an implied, you know, like, consensus on it because they're all in the same guild. They're not really going to, like, tickets from, like, guild items are probably not going to happen. I assume, like, 90% of their tickets from Master Looter came from pugs. So it's like, why, like, what is this? Like, what's too much drama? Like, bro, like, have you guys ever had drama in a guild where, like...
All right, here we go in chat again. Molding in chat. People literally molding about like, oh, personal looting is bad, personal looting is good, master looting is bad, master looting is good. Well, I don't really know what to make sense of his chat. Like, you know, it has a mind of its own, but it's interesting to see his chat like, you know, just go from one extreme to another.
Yeah, it's very bipolar, as you said earlier.
They got because it was an upgrade more for somebody else, and that
I just got called a tool by someone. That's pretty funny.
that's the way the guild worked. Like, because my guild had that happen too. Funneling is cringe. I disagree. I think funneling's fine. Funneling's totally fine. Like, I disagree with
Funneling happens now.
Change the way the game works on a fundamental level to throttle the most extreme players.
Like, okay, so I know I said I wasn't going to pause it too much, but funneling has been a thing for years. When certain guilds, they may not always do it, but some guilds, what they would do is tanks get priority of certain loot because they're the ones that's taking the brunt of the hits, or should be, and healers get priority of other loots because they're healing the tanks and the rest of the party. So them doing better in turn makes everybody else do better because it's a big group thing. Now, obviously in some cases, you know, some guilds may not done that, but I mean, that's always been a thing. Always has been. And then when they removed Master Looter and everything, that stopped being a thing. And now there's a lot of times where guilds are having trouble because tanks are taking a friggin' hit to the face that, you know, they may not had the gear for, or maybe they're not the proper like stats because the gear that they got is just what they got. That's all they got. You know, it's very difficult to get those tanks ready to keep going, and the healers as well, if you can't funnel the loot. And that's why there's funnels. There's literally funnels. Like you saw it with the Race to World First. They would take people in, targeting specific pieces of loot. They would take people into these groups, and you know, they would say, okay, if you've got this piece already, we need you, because that way you can trade it if you get it. It's as simple as that, and it's still happening. You just need to change the system so that way it can happen a little bit easier at this point, because they're going to find a way around it regardless.
This is a big issue. It doesn't matter if the world first raiders want to run 25 funnel raids for themselves on the first week of the expansion. This doesn't matter. You're affecting.
It doesn't affect anyone.
All right, he's people are turning on him again. So people are like, oh, that's a cringe take, Asmon. Not our problem. No, it's not your problem, but you know,
that is your problem.
Why can't we have a system that works for both?
It may not affect you, but it does affect a portion of the player base.
Great, go ahead. You want to do personal thing? Great, go ahead. Why can't we do that? Just make everyone happy. Give choices.
Because of
choices is all that matters.
500 people at the most. It just makes it pay to win. Literally every argument that people have against Master Looter is transparent and stupid. Literally every single argument that people have. And one of the best things,
it's even more pay to win right now.
The Master Looter argument on
these guilds were paying 5 million gold just to get people in,
and you would see what their actual gear is
for the loot
and when they actually raided. And a lot of these people talking about how they had such bad experiences and how bad Master Loot is didn't raid since Burning Crusade.
Fair enough. I guess when ninja looting was like an actual thing, right? But I can guarantee you, like for progression guilds, it's so frustrating when your best, like you know, this is like your best melee player, and this is speaking from a raid leader's perspective, right? You know this guy is your best melee player. The weapon drops. And somehow, in MMORPGs, the best drops always goes to the worst performers in the raid. I don't know why, but it happens in WoW a lot. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's the same in other video games, but in WoW, it's always the same thing, which is like the person who dies the most, the person who doesn't do the mechanics, they always get the best loot. They always do. And it was actually mind-blowing. But yeah, like in WoW, I actually had a few instances of that, and it was quite frustrating because you know that sometimes it's a very tight DPS check. Like you know the next boss is a very tight check. When we did 8.2, we were doing Ashvane, right? And everyone knows that Ashvane is a super tight DPS check. A percentage or 2 means whether you clear or not. And sometimes getting your best player the melee weapon or getting your best caster that range
I pugged all of that.
It's the difference of 1%. But you no longer have the freedom of choice. You're subject to RNG. And I guess we, like, in that tier, we all watched as, I guess, the person who died the most on farm get the absolute, like, you know, Exodia collection of weapons and trinkets, which, if I know it was placed in the hands of
it made them improve a little bit better.
Killed, you know, the progression boss like way earlier. So,
they did maybe like 5 more DPS at the end.
But I am on the fence. Sorry, I'm on the side of master looting because of reasons like that. If I want to take progression seriously, I would like to optimize my loot. I would like to be able to say, well, you get the weapon first, and then you get the weapon next, and you get the trinket next. I like to be able to do that. So give people the option. This, I don't know if you ever watched this, but I think you should give people the option. You want to do personal looting? That's great. You can.
It's all about the raid leader making it clear how loot works.
But give no fuck.
And if people don't like it, then they just find another group to raid with.
Chat molding again. He's losing it. Asmongold's losing it.
If I did a raid, it would be in my better interest to do personal loot, because that way I could stack the raid with more plate wearers that could trade me more items. It's actual. I would not use master loot anyway. Like I wouldn't do that anyway. See, you just don't.
It's
you
true.
don't even understand how the game works.
He's going against his own self-interest.
You have no idea how the game works.
If you wanted to distract us with new shiny things, these are the things that mattered, that should have been addressed with proper slides, and not people sitting around a table talking about how much they have learned about World of Warcraft and what they want to do with World of Warcraft. So you folks wanted my thoughts. Those are my 2 cents. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think.
It's a good video. I think that I think Quazii represents a lot of people. I think he does. Like people that have played WoW for years and they're just fucking pissed off and frustrated about it. And I think there's a lot of people that feel the exact same way.
Okay, chat is molding. Oh no, chat is molding. Actually, like, I don't like this video. This guy is dumb AF, bad video.
Yeah,
chat
absolutely. What he's saying is true, but also things you wanted aren't things you announce in expansion
chat is molding.
announcements,
I'm reading chat now.
I agree with that. And I think that, like, this is what's going to happen with the new expansion, is that they are going to have to earn back people's trust.
Oh, this guy is so sweet though. I miss Quazi's weak auras, bloody blizzard.
I think that is the case more so than anything. Yeah,
I do miss his weak auras.
Please, someone said, please link it so I can dislike it.
They're going to have to earn back players' trust.
I've had to resort to learning how to create my own weak auras.
Like, Blizzard has done everything in their power to lose.
Right, he pasted the link.
It's like, yes, maybe Quazii is being a little bit unfair in some circumstances because they have said certain things. Sure. But the reason why he's being unfair is because he probably feels like they've been unfair to him. You know what I mean? Like,
remember, I built my channel on World of Warcraft. I could have taken the easy way out and say, well, I'm just gonna be, a shill. I'm gonna sell out. I will be a sellout. I'll sell out my soul. I don't like this game, but every time I stream, I'm gonna turn on the camera and just pretend I like the game. I can do that. I can pretend to like the game. I can pretend to make YouTube comments and videos, but at the end of the day, is it really worth it? Is it really worth selling your soul?
You make the content that you want and people will love it. And if they don't, they will move on.
Probably not.
Like, yeah, there are a lot of people that feel that way, probably. Absolutely. That's what I think. And negative for the sake of being negative? Well, yeah, but like people are always going to be like that, but there's going to be less people like that and less of an audience of people like that whenever you have better content in general. So yeah, that's kind of the way that I look at it. That's what I think, okay? And thank you. Yeah, that's what I think. People had to earn trust in Shadowlands. Yep. Yeah, well, Shadowlands initially, like, remember how they added PvP vendors back? PvP vendors edition was because of that. That's what it was. How new expansion compared to the Shadowlands, is it bad? Well, I don't know yet. I have no idea. He addressed this announcement.
Toza says, your video is the complete opposite of being negative just to be negative. Fair enough. Like, you guys know me, I don't do a lot of negative videos actually. Like, I do satirical ones, but I don't really like sit on the hate train all the time, because a very unhealthy vibe to have if every single video is a hate video, like you can never please everyone in chat. So
oh yeah, that's true. There's so many content creators that just make videos of just nothing but hate.
He definitely didn't agree,
and it just gets a little tiring after a little while.
He didn't agree with my take on how they didn't cover enough of the features, like, what are they doing in Mythic Plus, what are they doing in Raid, what about Borrowed Power. I think to his point is like, yeah, they covered it in the interviews after, and yes, I think it's debatable whether I should have waited for those interviews to come out before making a reaction. Debatable. I think other than that, generally, like, he was quite gracious. Like, generally he was gracious with my takes, and he actually thought, like, well, they made sense, they were logical.
Not side interviews, so the questions asked should have been answered directly in the announcement. No, but I don't think that they should have been answered directly in the announcement. I think that they should have been consolidated on the website as information for people, like in one way or another.
Yeah, like, I mean, again, I don't want to throw the Final Fantasy comparison into the mix. Well, but I have to, because
buddy, you're gonna do it.
I feel like generally Yoshi P and team does a very
I've done it.
in terms of
I've done it.
detailing out the features. Like they spell it out very explicitly what they want and what is coming. Like there's no room for speculation. With Final Fantasy 14, it's literally like black and white. It's like this thing is coming here on this date at this Japanese standard time, and we will roll it out in A, B, C, D, E. And if you are not in A, B, C, D, E, you are in category 2. And in category 2, it's sub bullet point 1, sub bullet point 2, sub bullet point 3. There's absolutely no room for ambiguity. That I think that actually World of Warcraft can really learn from this. Because what's the biggest worry about MMORPGs? The biggest worry about MMORPGs is, and this is the fear that exists in everyone's head, you are worried that the time that you spend in an MMO is not worth your time because eventually people might not play the game. Right? People might not play the game because, well, I guess it's badly managed. And therefore your achievements in the game, they don't mean as much. Or you're just worried all your friends leave you. So what communicating well does is that it actually keeps people grounded. They keep people in the game because they always give someone something to look forward to. Like for now, like right now,
Keeps people engaged.
I am looking forward to patch 6.2 Island Sanctuaries. And I know in patch 6.3, 4, 5, Yoshi P and team has made mentions to Island Sanctuary getting new features and an expansion in zone. So I know exactly what's coming. Now, I do not know the minute details, but at least I know the general direction. I know like, okay, there's a tree there. We're heading towards that tree. That is basically where we need to set up camp. Whereas in World of Warcraft, it's like, well, here's a boat. I'm not going to give you a compass. I'm not giving you a treasure map. You're supposed to look at the skies and the stars and basically tell the direction in which you head, which is basically...
No, they gave you a compass, but it just
made up, right?
spins.
There's no visibility on where you're supposed to go.
There's no...
I do think that
it doesn't actually work.
WoW actually learned how to communicate to their players, just like what Final Fantasy 14 does. Again, WoW Andes will say, always using Final Fantasy 14 references. Why are you always using Final Fantasy 14 references? Well, the truth is, they're good at it. Can you find me another developer that is more meticulous when it comes to patch notes? I can't find them. Can you find another developer that is as consistent as Final Fantasy 14's team that does regular producer live letter? I can't. I've seen updates from New World, seen updates from Lost Ark, I've seen updates from the WoW team, I've seen updates from the Ashes of Creation team. No one is as meticulous as the Final Fantasy 14 team, who makes it a point every other, I can't remember the cadence, but every other couple of weeks, they have a producer live letter. Rain or shine, these people are there on a Friday night, Japan Standard Time most of the time. They are there on a Friday night using their personal time outside of work to kind of run you through the patch notes. This is what's happening. A, B, C, D, E. And guess what? People tune in. People feel... They feel empowered by that. They feel empowered by it because they know that, wow, there's so much things to look forward to. There's a reason to continue to paying my sub. Yoshi P cares.
Yeah.
Again, I have no idea when 9.2 or 9.3 or 9.1 is going to drop. Nobody have any idea. We can speculate, but no one has any ideas. And normally the way they announce it is like, boom, next week, or 2 weeks from now, patch is going to drop. So, yeah. I hate to bring Final Fantasy 14 into mix. WoW Andes, I know you hate it. At the end of the day, they do communication best. If WoW can do that, big plus points.
They really do.
Right?
There's
it's like they could make
no
a
denying
post,
that.
in case you missed our recent interviews, and like highlight some questions and answers, and that way people that are they're keeping up with it, they're able to like just follow the blue posts. Right? Like you shouldn't expect a third-party website to
like
promote
wowhead
this information for you. Like patch notes? Yeah, basically like patch notes.
Also appreciate the support. I think a lot of people in chat yesterday were like a lot of you actually came from Asmongold's channel. Like a lot of you in chat, and I'm specifically talking to people in chat who came here from the Legend of the Honey Badger video, or you came here from Asmongold's react to my videos. I'm speaking to you folks specifically. Some of you might be lurking, but what I'm trying to say is some of you had actually DM'd me and said some really nice words, like basically saying that you actually agree with my video, and it's good to have like a voice of reason in these times of like absolute hype and everyone's going crazy. And I just want to say I appreciate it. Thanks for also the support on the videos. Thanks for being here. Actually, I really appreciate it. You know, I might not be playing WoW now. And also if things continue to be what it is and they don't make any explicit promise around external systems, I don't know if I'll ever play WoW. But I just like to say thank you. Thanks for being here. And also to the old guard, the old guard of, you know, this community. You know, a big thank you, because I guess I also feel a lot more empowered to be able to give my opinions, because I know that at the end of the day, there's a lot of like-minded people in this community similar to me that we just want to have a chill time. We're just here to chill. It's Friday night over here. It's Friday over there for some of you. We're just a community that likes just to hang out and just, you know, and just talk, right? We're just a filthy casual community.
Filthy casual community.
Clearly we don't game enough and we don't do enough content that we hate. But I like being a filthy casual community, and that's great for me. So yeah, thanks for the support. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so overall, that was a good discussion without being a discussion. They both fed off each other very well. And, you know, honestly, Quazii and Asmon both brought up really good points. I think it takes a lot of viewpoints to be able to make the game into what it should be. And not everybody's going to be happy 100% of the time. And, I mean, that's just the reality of it. You can't make everybody happy. But overall, as long as everybody keeps putting in their input and everything, it can potentially help make the game a lot better game. And I personally have been having fun since Zereth Mortis came out. I had a little bit of fun with Quazii and everything, but I've had a lot more fun since Zereth Mortis came out. I've had a lot more fun since I've joined a guild of, you know, like-minded people that just want to have fun. You know, they're not trying to be sweaty tryhards all the time and everything. They just want to, you know, sometimes take shots every time they die and everything. You know, they just have fun. But I think the big thing is, one, to make World of Warcraft enjoyable, you got to find your friend group. You got to find your friend group or bring your friends in. And if you're playing it completely solo 100% of the time, the game's probably not going to be for you. They don't have enough systems in place for solo players to make it worthwhile. And then if you try and do everything solo, like, you know, pugging your Mythic Plus keys all the time and your raid stuff, you're going to run across trash people. And I don't mean trash people as in trash, they're bad at playing their game. I'm talking about people who have really shitty ability to communicate socially with people, and they're always putting people down, never want to help people out, you know, things like that. So just, you have to find your people. But, you know, don't stop giving your opinion about the game. Don't stop providing feedback. Obviously, in my opinion, you should give constructive feedback when possible. If you can't, well then, you know, that's fine, whatever. They may not take your take your feedback in, because, you know, obviously if you don't provide any sort of constructive feedback, they're not going to understand why you think something's bad. But just be aware that, you know, keep doing it. You know, if someone tells you, you know, why does your opinion matter? Fuck them. You know, just keep doing it. And hopefully Dragonflight will be a much better expansion for it, as long as everybody keeps providing their feedback. And who knows, maybe the company in whole will become better at, you know, engaging with the community. They seem to be heading in the right direction. They're not quite there yet, but hey, you never know. So, anyway, I guess that's it for watching React-ception. Oh, that was a really long video.